It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
You staying cool? Everybody here in New York, it was in the 90s today, and tomorrow it's supposed to hit 99 degrees. My gabagool is going to be steamy tomorrow. And it's baking right now over here. I have the air conditioner on. If I sound nasal, I've been dealing with allergies all day. Thank God for migraine aspirins, I'll tell you that much. Headache, like you wouldn't believe. By the way, for everybody who is going to be watching the NBA Finals, Game 7, enjoy. Who do I think is going to win between Oklahoma City and Indiana? I don't give a shit. But if you're going to force me, I almost, it's hard for me to dislike Tyrese Halliburton. Anybody that is a hardcore wrestling fan, you got a couple of cootie points for me. So I kind of lean towards Indiana, but I don't know. Oklahoma City's been on, it's tied 3-3. So we can't say they've been on fire, but I think the overall consensus is many people are leaning towards Oklahoma City. But, if Indiana wins, I'm fine with it. It's not a New York team, so I'm not really that interested in it. So, boy, what a difference 7 days makes. We got quite a bit to get into. I want to welcome everyone. It is Sunday night, June 22nd, 2025. Welcome to your latest edition of The Sit Down. I am Don Tony, as always. I want to thank you for spending a little bit of your day, evening, morning. I was checking out Havili, who very generous guy, supports what we do, helps keep me in business and helps pay the bills. And, he posted earlier that it was 8 a.m. in Brisbane, Australia. So right now it must be around 10, 11 a.m., somewhere around there. So, hey, good morning. Whenever you all tune in, I appreciate it more than you know. So, you saw the synopsis picture for today, and I kind of ran out of time because there was definitely other things I could have added to it. Do we open up talking about John Cena's pipe bomb? Some people that are calling it the greatest promo that John Cena has ever cut probably never watched John Cena's entire career. Yes. A lot of his promos were rinse and repeat in the same shit for years and years and years. But, people are living in the moment. And believe it or not, there's a lot of wrestling fans that really weren't around, back 20 years ago. Totally understandable. But, it was a spoof, a satire of CM Punk's promo. That's what it was. If CM Punk did not, I'm going to share something with you all. My mind was at work this weekend, big time, overload. I'm going to share something with you in a minute that I'm shocked no one has brought it up. Not even busted open. Who has some pretty horrible takes. Shout out to Dave LaGreca that says, Goldberg will win the championship. He doesn't just come back, to not win the championship. No, he's coming back for one final fucking match. He's been begging for a retirement match for almost 2 years now. He's running out of time. The limbs don't hurt much anymore. You got to take whatever you can get. Freak boy. But, even they didn't even have this take. But if CM Punk did not cut that promo 14 years ago, was it 11 or 12? I think it was 2012? If he didn't cut that promo 13 years ago, Cena's promo yesterday might have been one of the best he's ever done. 2011, thank you. Yeah, I had a feel it was 2011. If Punk didn't cut that promo in 11, then I could see the argument for Cena's promo yesterday. But the only reason why that promo even existed Friday night was because of CM Punk's promo in 2011. Now, I get it. SmackDown next Friday is in Saudi Arabia, and I'm not throwing shade on Saudi Arabia. But let's call it like it is. A boatload of people that are in the building for Saudi Arabia are not WWE fans. They're the fathers of the kids that are there to see WWE. It is still loud, it is still energetic, and it is a boatload of fun. Not disrespecting the Saudi crowd. But if John Cena cut that promo next Friday on SmackDown in Saudi Arabia, I think quite a few people would not correlate the two together. So why did they do it yesterday? They had no choice. See, what many of you probably haven't realized is that the 27th of June, unless my dates are wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one. The 27th of June is the date that CM Punk cut that pipe bomb. The 27th of June, I believe, is the anniversary of Ruthless Aggression, when John Cena faced Kurt Angle. How beautiful would it have been if John Cena cut that promo next Friday on the 23-year anniversary of his WWE main roster debut, on the 14-year anniversary of CM Punk's pipe bomb. But they probably figured we would probably get a better crowd reaction if we do it on the 20th instead of the 27th. I think I'm right with that date. If I'm wrong, oh well. Still, I thought it was tremendous. This is John Cena at his best so far in this character. And yes, thank you very much. The douche without the D. June 27, 2011 was the pipe bomb. So it is the anniversary. And I'm pretty sure the 27th of June, 2002 was John Cena's debut. How beautiful. On the anniversary, you do it. But they had to go to Saudi Arabia. I think that's the only reason why. Because let this sink in for a minute. If they didn't go to Saudi Arabia next week, John Cena could have put CM Punk through the table the night before Night of Champions, did the pipe bomb. Everybody would have realized, holy shit, it's the anniversary of his debut. Holy shit, it's the anniversary of the pipe bomb. And 24 hours later, you got Night of Champions. People would still be buzzing. They'd have aneurysms. Can't wait to see what's going to happen. Yeah. Did you see anybody bring that up? Big fat goose egg. But I loved it. Him shouting out some names, nothing wrong with that, But two things CM Punk laid out for that long, especially looking at that stupid Slim Jim logo. What's going to be next? When somebody juices hard way, are they going to have like Band-Aids to have the logo on it now? This bandage is brought to you by Acme. Enough is enough with this shit. What are you going to do? Put stickers on the chairs now when someone hits somebody in the back? Is the sticker going to say Ben Gay on it? If you get hit in the back with a chair, this is the perfect solution, the remedy. The second thing is, where was R-Truth? He got hit with a belt shot. Where was he? He was doing the AOP. If I had to critique anything, it would have been that. But I loved it. Did any of you out there check out my history show yesterday? Did you hear what I opened up with? I'm going to share it here because I think it's worthy to mention. And we'll get into a couple of quick topics just to open up the show, get everybody in the mood. Then I'll open the floor to all of you, and we'll get into whatever is on your mind. But I want to just share something with you, okay? Our truth. Ron Killings. The truth will set me free. Remember when he returned and he cut his dreads? Okay. I didn't get into much detail yesterday because it's a history show. It's not analysis, but I touched on it a little bit. I'm starting to get a really strong vibe that Netflix is going to opt out of this multi-billion-dollar deal with WWE after 5 years. I'm starting to feel that way. And let me tell you something why. If you pay close attention, and even if you haven't, you should start looking into shows that Netflix have been non-renewing. Check out the viewership numbers for some of those shows. I guarantee you they cost a hell of a lot less than WWE's deal with Netflix, and the viewership is a tremendous amount more. Netflix has run into a problem. And I'm not saying this to brag, but you and I have talked about this for a year and a half. Kev, God rest his soul, talked about it for a good year. As Netflix expands more globally, they have to be a little bit more careful with WWE. You remember a year and a half ago, WWE's bringing back Attitude. How many of those podcasts when Cody Rhodes was bleeding? Mama Rhodes, Cody. Remember the production truck? Oh, Attitude Era is back. TV 14 is back. They're going to allow blood on Monday nights. They're going to allow cursing on Monday nights. And yeah, that was all promising, but no one bothered to do research because common sense would tell you WWE's not going to piss off their existing advertisers. WWE is not going to piss off their current demographic, which is heavily kid-friendly. There's an old phrase, you don't try to fix what's not broken. So as far as WWE goes, they've been doing the same thing that they've been doing. Why did my screen go blank? Hold on a second. Why did my screen go blank? You guys with me? Hang on a second. Suddenly my screen went blank over here. That is never a good sign, but we shall fix. We shall fix. Hold on a second. Just when we get into a good groove, I think we're good. Okay, I think we're here. We are here. For those on audio, I'm doing the you can't see me thing. All right. WWE hasn't really had to change much, but Netflix has had to conform, and it's really starting to piss off fans. Now, here's the thing. You and I have been saying for a very, very long time, way before January, that we would get the same shit that we would get on USA Network and on Fox, probably without the black screen, but the censorship would still be there. No. They're not going to cut out the fan stuff. If you notice, Pat McAfee now, holy, and he stops. On SmackDown, he used to say, holy hell. Now he just says, holy. He can't even say hell in Saudi Arabia and India. So what's happening now? Look, this is the easiest way I could put it. And I'm going to share an audio clip with you that I guarantee almost all of you have no idea. What's happening now is Netflix has a problem with WWE, with the content. And the thing is that you see the Menendez brothers documentary that's on Netflix, pretty explicit, if I may say. What they were alleging that the father was doing to the sons, very, very explicit. You think that airs in some countries around the globe that has Netflix? No. Netflix, no, we cannot air this here. No, we cannot air this here. No, we cannot air this here. Absolutely not, cannot air this here. So they just block. certain programming that is not suitable and appropriate for certain countries. But they want WWE in India. They want WWE in different countries of the world. So how do you adjust that? Well, you do this. R-Truth, let's throw his mug back on the screen. He made his return. And you remember he asked the fans, you think I'm a gimmick? No. And he grabbed the scissors and cut his dreads off. All right. Let's flash back to a couple of weeks ago. This is the actual clip that we watched live on Raw. I want you to listen closely. It's only about a minute long. You will be able to tell exactly the moment where he cuts the dreads. And I want you to listen specifically to the volume level of the audio and the holy shit chant that followed. This is how it aired live.
You think I'm a gimmick?
Yep. Oh my God, no.
R-Truth. The truth has set me free.
Okay. So now before I play you something else, I want to flash back 1 year ago this week. Triple H was on the Pat McAfee show, and he said this very, very quick comment.
Netflix, a completely different animal. It's a streaming service. How are commercials going to work? How are breaks going to work? What's the length of time? What are the restrictions? What are not restrictions? You know, like right now, just as an example of us being on Fox, and if the crowd chants "Holy shit" or something much worse, they just take that audio. Sometimes they take the picture and the audio off, and it's just black screen.
Oh yeah, you're talking about The Rock.
Yeah. The Rock.
There was a big message being delivered, and you guys just want the complete nothing. Remember, that was your decision.
Yeah. Look, The Rock comes in and you sort of kind of can't tell The Rock what to do, right? Like, what are we going to tell him? So he does what he does, but we won't have those issues. Netflix.
Okay, so fans chant "Holy shit" or something worse. We don't have that problem on Netflix, my friends. I'm going to now share with you right now what is currently on Netflix. You heard the clip of R-Truth. You heard the crowd reaction. You heard how loud they got. You heard the holy shit chants. This is what's airing on Netflix. Same volume, unedited on my part. This is, if you go on Netflix right now, whether you're in one of those foreign countries or here, this is what you get.
You think I'm a gimmick?
Yep. Oh my God, no.
R-Truth. The truth has set me free.
Want to know what's worse? Netflix has social media accounts, and they have a TikTok account where they show WWE clips. Right now, Netflix's WWE TikTok account, when you watch this particular clip of R-Truth, they fade out before the holy shit chant and fade in afterwards. This is what Netflix is doing. A lot of you probably have no idea from WrestleMania when DIY had that amazing spot and the crowd was chanting, holy shit. You have to see that clip where they spliced in and said, this is awesome. This is awesome. And the chant goes on for about 40 seconds. And as you watch the clip, you see the same thing with that R-Truth clip I just told you. If you watch that R-Truth clip on Netflix right now, you will hear the crowd going, truth, truth, truth. But if you look at the fans, this is what you see. This is the problem Netflix is having now. They're butchering a lot of crowd chants. They're butchering out. Cody Rhodes, hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. Whoa, have some fun checking that out. I'm telling you, the viewership is way down from January. No question. I mean, this, when I do the news updates, we always include how many millions of hours is watched. You know, this week they went up 1 million hours from the prior week, which is impressive. That's a 20% increase. But this is starting to feel like Fox all over again. Fox, they were doing great numbers. They first started, even towards the latter part, but Fox felt we're not getting enough on our return. Do you feel that Netflix is getting enough on their return to give WWE $500 million a year? I mean, just let that sink in. So unless they start doing something drastic and start really watering down that SmackDown roster and putting all the major players on Raw, which don't be surprised. I'll make a prediction right now, and it's more common sense than anything else. When we get around year 4 of this Netflix deal, year 4, that's when you're going to see a WWE draft. And you'll think that Nick Aldis was a little bit on too much of the Bambanya. I trade Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes to Raw for Akira Tozawa. Not that drastic, but you feel where I'm going with this. I would not be surprised. And here's another little tidbit that probably nobody thought about. How long is the USA Network deal for SmackDown? 5 years. When could Netflix opt out of their deal with Raw and WWE? 5 years. We could have a repeat where they go off of Netflix and then end up going to USA Network. Be really, really interesting. Now, I'm not saying that this absolutely is going to happen. A shitload could happen between now and 4 years from now. I mean, there's several people in AEW that will likely be WWE bound. Some people may retire, some people may not. You can't predict 4 years, 4 years from now what's going to happen. But if they stay on this trajectory, if I'm Netflix, you got NFL now. You have other live sports. You have countless specials, movies, TV premieres, TV series. You know, WWE is not the be-all, end-all. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. But, you know, Netflix is becoming a big problem because the easy way to fix the censoring is do not show WWE in those countries, or you make multiple versions of WWE. In the United States, in some countries, you allow all the strong language. And then you make a special edited version for countries that do not want that. Netflix is not going that far. So I figured I'd share that. What else do we want to get into? Oh, we talked about this last Monday, and it looks like it is going to happen. There's two ways that they could go about this. The retirement stipulation will be added to the match. One of two things will happen. Either Gunther will balk at this, or maybe Adam Pearson's storyline says, I wasn't here. Nick Aldis had no right to make that match official. And then we tweak it. Or there's going to be a contract signing, and somehow Gunther got a little clause in that contract that Goldberg, if you lose this match, you're retired. Gunther will absolutely be retiring Goldberg. Do not listen to those numbnuts out there. No, why would he come back at this age unless he's going to win the world championship? Please, please. I hate the color pink now because of you and some others out there. So that retirement stipulation, although not advertised yet, will come into play in very short order. So I just figured I'd mention that. I saw somebody write this earlier, and I want to share it right now. And we'll get into some others in a little bit. This right here. I wanted to bring this up. Who sent this to me? Give me 1 second. Why can't I see this? Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Here we go. This was Tommy D. Thank you very much for this, Tommy. A lot of people are comparing Mercedes Moné's championships to Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns. And I know why some people are saying that, because some podcasts have been comparing it as well. Do I agree? And my answer is pretty simple. I had to do a little research to remind myself what the titles were. If you look at the title or the synopsis for today's episode in the title, I am not comparing Mercedes Moné's current belt run, which is, I think, five or six belts, to Kenny Omega or Roman Reigns, for a couple of reasons. Number one, and I'm not throwing any shade on Mercedes Moné. First of all, Kenny Omega at the time had the AEW World Championship. He also had the Impact World Championship and the AAA Mega Championship, the one that El Hijo del Viqueño currently holds. Plus, we were in the COVID era at that time, so Impact was desperate to have the rub from AEW to get a little bit more exposure. I'm not trying to throw shade on Impact, but under very special circumstances. I'll throw one at you that none of these geniuses brought up the last couple of days. How come nobody brought up FTR? FTR had the AAA tag titles, the IWGP tag team titles, and they also had the Ring of Honor tag team titles. That's 3 sets of belts right there, FTR, and that's very recent. I remember at the time we were all like, how come Tony Khan doesn't give them the AEW tag titles? Well, they have the Ring of Honor tag titles, which is still part of AEW. I get it. But here's the thing. Roman Reigns, it was all WWE championships. So I don't compare Mercedes Moné to Roman Reigns. I don't compare her to FTR, and I don't compare her to Kenny Omega. I compare her, and I'm going to put the picture on the screen, because if you look at some of Mercedes Moné's poses, now obviously not the one when she was in the ring, but I now call Mercedes Moné. Do you remember the Ultimo Dragon? WCW for a year called them the Ultimate Dragon. The Ultimate Dragon. I hated that. I freaking hated it. They finally went back and called him the Ultimo. I call her the Ultimoné Dragon. Just add an NE. The letters NE after Ultimo. That's her. She's the Ultimoné Dragon. Ultimoné Dragon. I did some research, and Ultimo Dragon, when he lost to Great Sasuke in 1996 and lost 8 titles with it, Ultimo Dragon had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, the NWA Junior Championship, the World Welterweight Championship for the NWA. He had the War International Junior Heavyweight Championship, the UWA Junior Heavyweight Championship, the WWA Junior Light Heavyweight Championship, the British Commonwealth Junior Heavyweight title, and the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. I think at one point he had 11 belts. But when he lost to Great Sasuke, he lost all 8 belts at that one time. Now, this may be a little problem. This may be a little bit of a problem for All In with Tony Storm. Because are all of Mercedes Moné's championships going to be on the line against Tony Storm? See, the thing you have to realize is that the belts that Mercedes Moné has right now, which is the CMLL Women's Championship, the Rev Pro Undisputed British Women's Championship, the EWA Women's Championship, the New Japan, and the TBS. And she won the Owen Hart tournament as well. These are all promotions that want a little extra exposure by having Mercedes Moné carry their championship. Do you see Tony Storm representing CMLL, New Japan, Rev Pro, EWA? No, I don't. I don't. So now you say to yourself, if Mercedes puts all her belts on the line for All In, doesn't that kind of diminish the chances of Tony Storm winning? Because when I look at the character, the gimmick, the presentation of the CEO, remember when she first came in and she was a babyface? You remember what we used to say? She should have came, a lot of you remember this. I said this within a month that she was in AEW. I said she should have came in and said, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this title. I want that title too. Yes, give me that one. I want it all. A lot of you may remember that. Now it seems like this is what they're doing. That's not Tony Storm's gimmick. Who is going to be the person that is going to finally dethrone Mercedes Moné? I have no idea. The only person that comes to mind, which I personally think, oh, that's too far gone, is Thunder Rosa. Because you got to look at the promotions involved and say to yourself, okay, who would be someone who'd be a good representation for those companies as well? I can't figure anybody out. It ain't Hekla, Yukla, whatever her name is, Thekla. She's great. But that ship ain't sailing for quite some time. There's nobody. Megan Bain for those companies? I don't see it. So they've put themselves, listen, I have no shade whatsoever on Mercedes Moné right now. People, oh, she's green. Listen, the dumbest news that I saw, and whoever put out that article are the same jerk-offs that put out the article that, Will Ospreay, was willing to have Hangman Page. He wanted Hangman to win and go to All In. And Hangman Page wanted Ospreay to win and go to All In. It's not up to them. It's up to, obviously, the promoter. And obviously, you got to feed the fans. But the idea of putting out, you know why that was put out? Because they want us to believe that Hangman Page is not selfish. Will Ospreay is not selfish. And it was stupid. It was pointless to put that out. So now you have the same morons putting out, Mercedes Moné was willing to lose a match before All In. Why? So we can make it seem, oh, she's not selfish. It was Tony Khan. She's got creative control. Tony, I think I should have a non-title match against somebody and Tony Storm could distract me and I get rolled up. But that's the Vince McMahon idea. Doesn't matter. She has creative control. Mercedes Moné could go to Tony Khan and say, I want to win a match in 30 seconds. Whatever you say, CEO. I guarantee you, when Tony Khan's phone rings and it's Mercedes Moné, I guarantee he picks up and he's like, hey, CEO. So I don't buy that either. The whole idea of putting that stuff out is, oh, See, they care so much that they were willing to do it. But every time they're willing to do this, they don't. They don't. So who's going to take the title off of Ultimoné Dragon? That's the question. The Ultimoné Dragon. All right. Moving on, Tyrese. Not Halliburton. By the way, some people were saying he might be injured in that game. Hope not. Valeriano. He's getting tired of all the Chris Van Vliet softball interviews. Get used to it, man. Get used to it. I used to be on Blue Wire with Chris Van Vliet. And Chris Van Vliet is, he is a very good interview. He does bring up topics that a lot of people will not touch. It's softball. It's easy listening because that's what got Chris Van Vliet the success he has now. You know, unfortunately, you know, being over the edge and controversial and doing a little gotcha is not what a lot of places want. You have to understand who Chris Van Vliet is, who is an uber nice guy. Very, very smart, does his research, cares, friendly, and he wants that vibe on his interviews. So if you don't like Vliet, you know, then you got to just find somebody else. Ariel Helwani is starting to turn into Vliet a little bit. And we've talked about that before. Listen, Ariel Helwani is a very, very good interview. To me, they're the good 1-2 still. Those two are a nice 1-2 punch. You know, don't even give me Sam Roberts or Peter Rosenberg. I'd rather just stick this up my ass than watch their interviews. Nothing personal, but that's what Chris Van Vliet is all about. Nice guy, I can't complain. And the guy does his work. He does his research. Very, very polished. And that is, you know, very, very appealing to not only the guests, but, you know, the hosts and the networks that support him. So I hope I answered that. Havili, if All In was today, what would the main event instead of Moxley versus Page, what would it be? Moxley versus Page, Omega versus Okada, or Tony Storm versus Monet? And if Shawn Michaels did not lose his smile and face Bret Hart, who would Steve Austin have faced at WrestleMania 13? And my favorite wrestler podcast. All right. And by the way, thank you for everything that you sent today. Definitely appreciated. You know, really helps, you know, keep the channel growing and support. Much love to you. And I'll get into the other questions. We'll segue into it with conversation. The later on, for all of you out there, if you want to have some fun with me, you know, think of your 80s or 90s or 2000s crush. If you're a guy, you know, if you had a girl, or if you're a guy and you had a guy, think of your crush growing up, because he made me an offer I can't refuse. So I thought about it a little bit before we went live. We'll share that a little bit later. First of all, if Tony Storm were to dethrone Mercedes Moné, I would seriously consider that match if it was not Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. You're asking me if All In happened tonight, what would be the main event? Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. I still believe that that's the way to go. Problem is, I don't get that vibe of Hangman Page winning the championship yet. I mean, make no mistake about it, I don't like the guy that much for various reasons. You know, he rubs me the wrong way. AEW has not utilized him as good as I expected him to be the last couple of years, although he had, you know, tremendous feud with Swerve. Guy has been there since pretty much the beginning. So, you know, but everybody feels like Darby Allin is the guy to take it off of Moxley. So if you do All In Texas, I know where you're going, guys. I know what you're thinking as soon as I said it that way. Well, DT, well, they're in Texas. Cowboy winning the belt. Yeah, I could see it. I could see Hangman Page's music going off and all those Texans shedding a little bit of a tear. I could see it. I could see it. You know, we don't have to do predictions yet. There's a lot that'll happen between now and then. I just don't see Moxley going off the air having this championship. I just don't see it unless there's a major swerve and maybe Darby returns or something else. I just get this feeling that there's going to be so much clusterfuck in that match. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a legend, not saying Sting, but we get a legend or somebody comes out and kind of helps Hangman a little bit. I could see a few different things happening. But right now, that's where I would go. If Shawn Michaels didn't lose his smile and face Bret Hart, who would have Austin faced at WrestleMania? I tell you, I know this probably isn't the answer that you would have wanted, but I would have gone a three-way. I would have had, if I was forced to, if Shawn Michaels did not lose his smile and take time off, I would have considered HBK versus Bret versus Austin. Problem is that Austin and Bret had a nice feud leading up to 13. You know, if I put the letter S in front of the word Hitman, that's exactly how I feel. You know, they were having a very, very good feud to lead up to 13. You would have had to have incorporated Shawn Michaels in that. You would have had to have a totally different feud for Steve Austin. And personally, I think the best thing that happened at the time was Shawn Michaels losing his smile. Because number one, that allowed Austin to really get center stage, you know, organically. And when Shawn Michaels did come back, a lot of people think his second run in the WWE was better than his first run. You look at the WrestleMania matches that he had against Taker, against others. You know, some people would argue that Shawn Michaels, once he came back from the back injury, you know, he had HWA promotion at the time. I think that was TWA. I remember, yeah. I was like, no, not the airline. Texas Wrestling Alliance, I think it was called. I would have considered a three-way because that would have been fun to see HBK. Because remember, this is right on the cusp of the Attitude Era. So it would have been pretty interesting to see how Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin would have interacted at that time. So that's what I would have done. My favorite wrestler podcast right now. Favorite wrestler right now? Probably. See, man, that's harder than you think. Because, you know, look, I like Dutch, but he's more manager. Cornette, I could tolerate, but he's more manager. I like Conan's podcast because he just tells it straight up like it is. You know, it's just I just laugh when I hear the ice being chewed during the show, and you hear the cup rattling. See, like here, like if I start crunching on ice, you know what I'm talking about? Like some of that is kind of like, you know, plus whoever does the clips, and I don't know if it's Feeney or not, and I love Feeney, but sometimes they'll be like, you know, so-and-so reacts to, I don't know, Liv Morgan's injury, and you click on the clip, and it's like 10 minutes long, and 8 minutes of the clip will either have a dog commercial or bet online, and it'll talk about something totally different, and then the final 90 seconds of the clip will be like, Mike from New Jersey asks, what do you think about Liv Morgan's injury? I think it sucks. And then just cuts off. You know, like some of those clips, I'm like, dick. But I like their honesty. Booker T grows on me. Booker T is better than I think some people perceive. It's a shame to see how some other wrestlers went off the rails. You know, it's a shame because you see now the desperation, and it's not just wrestlers. I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Coachman, but I keep saying he's turned into the Black Vince Russo. Yeah, just some of the stuff that's going on. And what's sad about it is he probably either does not realize it or he's realizing it and just laughing at everyone. And if that's what it is, Jonathan, nothing but love from my way. I kind of like Booker T. Booker T gets very, very raw sometimes, and you could tell that he's very, very loyal to who he is friends with. And I appreciate that loyalty, even though it may disagree with some of us out there. So, but thank you for that. Bobby Means personally believes we may have ourselves a situation where all of WWE TV moves to streaming the upcoming years. Cable is dying slowly. I appreciate you writing that, because I think, the only person, other than Meltzer, of course, I think I'm the only person in podcast land that keeps saying what I'm about to say. I criticize AEW where needed. I praise them where needed. And I say this 100% sincere. If AEW tomorrow announced that they would no longer be on TNT, and they would no longer be on TBS, and they would be available only on Max, I would say that's a great thing. That's a great thing. People would laugh and people would call it a failure, a disaster, a tragedy. No. The future of TV is streaming. I got rid of my Spectrum cable box 10 years ago. I switched to Verizon Fios and I disconnected that shit 2 years ago because I got tired of paying $250 a month for television. Then I thought, I'll get, this bullshit this, and I'll get this, and I'll just get the small channel, and I'll subscribe to one streaming service. And then between the internet and everything else, still spending $200 a month. So now what I do, I for a couple of years, I went to YouTube TV until YouTube TV started charging $85 a month. And I was like, fuck you, YouTube TV. And now I have no cable whatsoever. I watch through streaming. I have Peacock. And here's the greatest thing. Peacock is free if you have an account with Instacart. Guarantee a lot of people don't know that. If you have an account with Instacart Plus, you get Peacock for free. There are some commercials, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. We watched Peacock the other day. My wife's like, why are we getting commercials? I'm like, because we ain't paying for Peacock no more. She's like, why is that? I said, because we get it free with Instacart. Oh, okay. Streaming is the future. Right before our very eyes, streaming is taking over a hell of a lot of stuff. You look at even the news world. Look at all the people that were fired from CNN. Now all they do is stream. Bill O'Reilly is a fossil. I had not paid attention to him for about 5 or 6 years. Now suddenly I do watch some of his stuff, and he's strictly streaming. If AEW went strictly to streaming tomorrow, they would not get hurt, because that is the future. And plus, understand this. Right now, HBO Max, I think they have 125 million subscribers? That is a shitload of people. Just like Netflix. Netflix has some people are like, well, look at how low the numbers are for Netflix on streaming. Yeah, I get it. But what a lot of people don't realize, and I keep saying this, and I don't understand, even WrestleNomics, who I do respect, and they work really, really hard. But I don't understand why people out there don't break it down for everybody. When you see 2.9 million viewers for Netflix, that doesn't mean that across the globe, 2.9 million people watched Raw last week. That's not what they do. They take the total length of the show and they divide it by the total number of hours watched, and they come up with a number. So just for average, if Raw's 3 hours, if I watch for an hour and Bobby Means watches for an hour and Havili watches for an hour, how many people would show up on the total viewers? We watched the full hour. How many viewers would we register as? We would register a total of 1, because 3 hours of viewership divided by 3 hours in length comes up to 1 person. So when you see 2.9 million people, that's 2.9 million people who watch the entire 3 hours. They do that for advertisers. When they go to the advertisers, they don't say to the advertisers, we had 2 million people that only watched 45 minutes average and then shut it off. How many of you out there tune into Raw and then after 15 minutes, this shit sucks, and you change the channel? How many of you out there watch an hour and they're like, I'll watch the other hour later on in the week. How many of you watch 30 minutes now or an hour now and 30 minutes later on in the week? As long as you watch the whole show, you register as one person. Remember the controversy with Zasloff and TNT a couple of years ago? We got that 5 million because, we calculate someone who at least watched the AEW program for at least 3 minutes. Just think about that. So when you see the quarter hours and you see these jumps, peaks and bounds, that doesn't tell you that how many people total watch for the entire show. If you see a 200,000 viewership increase by quarter one, and by the end of the night, it's down 300,000 viewers, you don't know how many people you lost to quarter two and how many you gained at the same time. They just give you the total number that watched during that quarter. You don't know if somebody watched the full 15 minutes for that quarter, if they only watched 5 minutes of that quarter. So no one brings that up. So there's many more than 2.9 million people watching Raw. But again, if you get people that only watch 20 minutes or watch an hour or watch an hour and a half, and then they're like, I'm done. Or tune in just to see the main event. They add everybody, and when you get to that's how they do it. So if AEW went to HBO Max, that is not a downgrade. That is the future. That is the future. And the advertising revenue is a lot different as well. So I'm one of the few people that will say going to streaming is not a downgrade and it's not a disaster. That is an upgrade. You force everybody to get HBO Max if you want to watch AEW. One other thing as well, keep in mind, when you look at TNA and you hear about TNA trying to, now they offer a free tier. Because even if you watch the free tier, you get hit with ads. They still make money off of it. If you pay, my advice to all of you out there is if you want to see what I'm talking about, watch a lot of like Cord Cutters News is a good YouTube channel, 10-minute clips and you're done. A lot of places are finding out that having a tier with ads makes them more money than having a more expensive tier with no ads. That is actually true. You could have a $15 tier with no ads at all and offer a $5 tier with ads, and you make more money with the $5 tier with ads. So when you hear, TNA is desperate, they got a free tier now. No, they're still making money. You see what WWE did with Worlds Collide? They racked in a shitload of ad revenue. They made a shitload on the ad revenue. That's the future. That is the future. Streaming is the future. My take is 10 years from now, I would say at least 75% of wrestling is streaming only. The only reason why a lot of people would hate AEW going strictly to HBO Max is unless they reveal their viewership every week, you will no longer know the rating. You'll no longer know the rating. And again, Netflix, you see that number, you don't know the true viewership number. You don't know how many people actually stopped and watched WWE even for 5 minutes. Because on Nielsen, you register for that quarter hour. So when you saw CM Punk originally confront Seth Rollins a year and a half ago, whatever it was, and it had a 700,000 viewership increase for that quarter, and then dropped 500,000 or 600,000 right after, you don't know if all 700,000 watched the entire 15 minutes, only watched 10 minutes, but they still registered for that quarter. You watch it for 5 minutes, you still register for that quarter. For some reason, no one ever brings this up. I don't get it. I don't get it, but I do. I do. All right. Somebody's asking about Kev. Jim Kahn. What did they do with Kev's cats? Well, Kev had one cat, Amy, and he took care of a lot of strays that were outside the house. Unfortunately, there was no one at the house that continued to take care of the strays. I think the landlord did for a little while, but the thing is, you gotta, and I'm not saying this to be funny, but if I'm a stray cat, I don't go, like if listen, if I remember this house, of course I'm going to walk to this house every time looking for food. But after a little while, the cats come over and see no food. They have to go somewhere else. There is no like language where the cat's like, meow, 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 meow. Fresh Meadows, meow, 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 meow. 83rd Road, meow, 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 meow. Walk this way. They get into the pattern of going to a house, but they have to find food elsewhere. I don't think any cats, ended up, in a horrible situation because Kev wasn't there anymore. It's a part of what it is. It's like bird feed. You have a little birdhouse outside, you put feed out every day, and a lot of birds will come and they'll fly. But after a while, if you stop the feed, the birds will look for food elsewhere. That's what it is. One of Kev's brothers took in Amy. And the last I heard, she's doing very, very well. So if you wanted to know what happened with Amy, she's doing well. Havili, thank you for the 50 spot, my friend. Favorite version of the frog or the 5-star splash? I always loved Eddie Guerrero's. I know it's been made iconic because people will always do that little shimmy to pay tribute to him. I still remember when he made his debut on Monday Night Raw with the Radicals, and he did that frog splash and dislocated, I think, his elbow, whatever it was. That was awful, man. For me, as far as 5-star splash goes, it'll always, for me, my favorite one of all will always be RVD. And the reason why, the bounce after a while got cartoony. He'd bounce up and he'd hold his midsection and then he'd run and crawl to the person to get the pin. But RVD's, you saw it and you felt like it hurt. Growing up, Superfly Snooker's splash was amazing. Trust me, I climbed a lot of you know this already. When I was 12 years old, 13 years old, I climbed a sliding pond in my local park. And I jumped up, and my friend, we had a little park, Juniper Park. We had a sliding pond and swings and everything. And I climbed the top of the sliding pond. I'll never forget it. And I did the I love you sign. And my friend was laid out on the mat, and I was going to jump off and land on him. But if you watch the old Superfly splashes, the wrestler gets up a little bit right at the last minute to this way they fall back as the splash goes on, and it helps absorb, the move. And, we thought we practiced it. I did it in my pool countless times, but it's funny, you do it in the pool and you kind of do like a belly flop. You ever see someone that dives in the pool and they land straight on their stomach and it hurts? That would happen sometimes. You did a Superfly splash into a pool. But I climbed the top of the sliding pond and I jumped off. My fucking friend moved out of the way. And I tried to break my fall and I ended up breaking my ankle. I legitimately broke my ankle. And I remember my father took me to the hospital and they had to reset it. And I remember they went, and I was crying and my father got into a cold sweat. I remember my father almost passing out because he was right next to me when they reset my ankle. And his was tremendous. But for me, RVD's 5-star splash, always top notch because it looked like it hurt. And after a while, like I said, the bounce got a little bit Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. For me, it's probably Nightmare on Elm Street. Because for a short period of time, you got afraid to go to sleep. We got over that quickly. Friday the 13th was good. I didn't have to worry about going to summer camps and ponds. So I didn't have to worry about Jason Voorhees at all, but Nightmare on Elm Street. But here's the thing, too. Freddy Krueger, anybody remember the TV series V? Anybody remember that show? When that came out, I fucking was addicted to that show V. They ended up turning it into a TV series, and that kind of sucked because they didn't have the expenditure to really spend on special effects. But when V was a miniseries, Freddy Krueger was in that movie, that series. So I was already a fan of his. So now he's in Nightmare on Elm Street, and we found out it's the same guy. We're like, oh, this is cool. So for me, Freddy is iconic. He's iconic. Jason Voorhees as well. But, after a while, it got really ridiculous with Jason, in my honest opinion. Who is most likely to go into the Hall of Fame next year? Who's going to go into the Hall of Fame next year? I think Demolition is an absolute lock. Demolition is an absolute lock. Bray Wyatt, I think, is going to go in. I think it's time. You had that year of grieving, I think was necessary. John Cena going in, I absolutely could see. I'm waiting for someone to ask Cena this question. And if Vliet or Ariel Wani get the opportunity to interview Cena, this is the one question I want asked. I know he won't answer it. You might have a better chance of him answering it later on, years from now. It might be better to ask him this years from now, but I want to know that once Vince sold WWE and was no longer owner, was that the time when John Cena finally realized, okay, I stuck around as long as I did because Vince is like a second father to me. And once Vince no longer owned WWE, it was pretty much my time to basically pack it up as well. I think that is a very big part. Like I said, he's a WWE ambassador, so I don't expect him to answer that, but I would love for somebody to ask that question just to see what kind of reaction you would get. And if I'm Cena, I'm sure Cena's probably looked in the mirror at home and has probably rehearsed that answer already, figuring somebody at some time is going to ask me that question. Goldberg going in, yeah, I could see that as well. Yeah, I could see that. Victoria, I don't see yet. Victoria is interesting because she signed a Legends deal a while ago, and they have not done anything with her. Do I expect her at Evolution? Yeah, I do. But it's interesting that they haven't reintroduced her, not even let her sit ringside, for an event or two, more, just to get her, face back out there. By the way, has anybody noticed something about Victoria's live streams? Because I do watch them once in a while. I support what she does. I'm a fan. She used to tell Kev that she was a fan of what we did. And I'm not saying that because she was reciprocal. Anybody know something about her streams? I always have to adjust the color because she puts that fucking contrast so bright. I'm like, nobody's skin is that perfect. You ever watch, and if you never noticed it, you'll notice it now. Whenever you watch her on video, she does a little Twitter thing. Look at it. You'll be like, I got to adjust my screen. The contrast is so bright. She's got perfect skin. I mean, her skin sometimes is as white as this. I kid you not. Yeah, I signed a Legends deal. You'll see it now because I brought it up. She's very, very good, though. I like her. Listen, I remember her, her pizzeria that she had. I am a fan. And which big man should have won the WWE Championship? Vader, One Man Gang, Big Boss Man, or Bam Bam Bigelow? For me, it'll always be Vader. I mean, look, I became friends with Bam Bam. God rest his soul. But even when he was in that King of the Ring tournament, he was such an underdog that you rooted for, but you honestly, in the Hogan era, you never thought in a million years Bam Bam would be champion, world champion. There was never a point where Bam Bam Bigelow was in WWE that I thought he would be a world champion. One Man Gang, nah. I mean, people remember him more for Akeem, the African Dream, than anything else. But One Man Gang was awesome. 747. Big Boss Man. Nah. Big Boss Man was great, but never, even in the 90s when he came back with the dark outfit and was, aligned with Vince and Shane, just never felt world championship. Vader, I could have seen for a short period of time, around the time that Kevin Nash, Diesel, I'm not saying that they were there at the same time, but I'm saying like when you had Diesel and Sid, like you would have thought there would have been Mankind, there would have been a little gap somewhere, a couple of months that Vader could have beat Shawn Michaels or vice versa or something. So me, Vader probably is the person for me. Out of all of them, it would be Vader. All right. I answered Tommy's before. I still have your biggie, Havili. We'll get into it a little bit when we go off topic for wrestling. Something else that I wanted to bring up. What did I put over here? If you look at the thumbnail for tonight's show, I noticed a little trend. You look at the top right-hand corner for those on video right now. Piper Niven, 2023. Naomi, 2024. Roxanne Perez should be 2025. We talked about it last Monday night right after Raw. We kind of like backed into that idea that Roxanne is going to offer this. You could see this a mile away. And again, we talked about it 5 minutes after Raw went off the air. Listen, God bless Tommy Dreamer and everybody else. When you got 2-3 days to let it sink in and think about it, yeah, I think the light bulb would go off too. I think Adam Pearce is going to threaten Raquel, going to strip her of the belts because Liv Morgan cannot compete. And Roxanne Perez, I could be your partner. And then Finn Balor's going to have that big grin on his face. He's going to be like, I think that's a great idea. And Roxanne Perez. But what's interesting? If they really wanted to, maybe you lead to an all-Latino group down the line. Because you have Roxanne Perez, you have Raquel Rodriguez, and you have Dominic Mysterio. And many people think that ultimately Dominic Mysterio, he's going to turn into a little slut. He's going to turn into, how can you be a slut if you're not physically actually involved with the women? He wasn't really involved with Rhea Ripley, obviously, and he wasn't involved. When Dominic kisses Liv, he kisses her like a pet. Like pretend this drill is Liv Morgan, and pretend this is her nose, and this is her mouth, and this is her eyes right here. He'll look at her and go like this. Kiss her on the top of her head. If I walked up to my wife right now and said, honey, nice to see you, kiss her on the top of her head, she'd be like, what are you? Oh, I almost said the wrong word. She'd be like, what's wrong with you? That's how you kiss me? What am I, a dog? Am I a cat? So Dominic is G-rated if you actually think about it. But by the way, this week is the anniversary of Rhea Ripley married Buddy Matthews. And I still remember Dominic's tweet at the time, had nothing but hearts and congratulations. Didn't write anything else, couldn't. But you feel like Dominic is going to go from Rhea to Liv to Roxanne. It's all innocent. So Roxanne Perez is going to offer to be Raquel's partner, and Finn Balor is going to think it's a great idea, and it's going to work a little bit. And then you're going to say to yourself, even if Liv Morgan has a damaged wing, why isn't she on Raw the following week and say, give my fucking title back? And then you could have Raquel, but Liv, they're going to take the belt away from me if you can't defend it. I don't care. It's either me or nothing. Of course, we're not going to get that. Liv Morgan suddenly, it's like when Paul Heyman called Roman Reigns that time. No, Roman Reigns called Paul Heyman that time. The number you have reached has been disconnected. It's as if Liv Morgan forgets about Monday Night Raw for a good month or two. So, But I think that's where they got to go with this. But it is interesting when you look at it that this is now 3 years in a row. And with all due respect, I mean, I'm not going to nitpick about it, but why even have all these tournaments and briefcases and rumbles and everything else where someone ultimately could go just walk into the ring, you know, not having a match for years, you're mine, and then get a title shot? Or, Raquel, I could be your partner. Or even Dewdrop, Piper Niven. This is mine now? Yeah, but what? Oh, okay. You know, you look at Naomi, you look at Piper, and now you look at Roxanne Perez, you look at Goldberg getting this opportunity, and you say to yourself, why do I need a briefcase? Why do I need a rumble? Why do I need a tournament? All I got to do is just show up at the right time. You got to be like a lawyer when there's a car accident. Car accident happens, the first fucking lawyer on the scene, here's my card. And that person might get the case. All right. Rojo Bear, shout out to you, my friend. 52 freaking months as a member of the family here. I can't thank you enough for that. Really, really appreciate it. Guardian of Chaos, Austin Nance, holding down the ship as always. VJ, who is celebrating 25 months as a channel member. Am I going to watch the new Naked Gun movie? What's my favorite rap song and why is it FIEN? I don't know what that means, but you do not have to say anything. My favorite rap song of all time, you know, believe it or not, it's funny because when we were talking about Run DMC the other day, I think on Patreon, we were running down some songs and I totally forgot the song It's Like That because I remember, you know, cranking that in 1984 loud and people going nuts over it. But it's not my favorite song of all time. Believe it or not, my favorite song of all time has got to be, it's got to be something like Big Daddy Kane or maybe Eric B. and Rakim. You know, like it was David Peralta who reminded me Thursday, it was I think the 30-year anniversary of Eric B. and Rakim's Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. That fucking album was immense. I mean, there's only like 2 songs on that album that I didn't like. So it's probably something like that. Rapper's Delight was fun when it came out, but it got killed in the weddings. You know, to the hip hop, the hibbit, to hip hip hop, and you don't stop rocking to the bang, to the boogie, to up to the boogie, the beat. And if you really look at those lyrics, I mean, come on, Scooby Doo, I love you. It's like, oh, you know what? Actually, no, I know which one. The Message. Grandmaster Flash, The Message. Probably my all-time favorite song because I remember the impact that it had in the early 80s. I remember even the word piss got censored off the radio. Grandmaster Flash, The Message. It's like a jungle out there. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Something like that. That song was powerful at the time. And this music video was great too, because it really showed you like the inner city and how bad people were having it. Grandmaster Flash, The Message is probably my favorite song of all time. I mean, I DJ'd for many years and that song would be kind of hard. It's kind of lame compared to like later on, but you know, just overall, that song was very, very powerful. So, FEIN is the garbage Travis Scott song. I don't pay attention to Travis Scott. I still think R-Truth is going to end up with Cena. I know it happened yesterday, but I still think, Friday, I still think R-Truth could end up replacing Travis Scott in that role. Because what do you do with R-Truth next? He's going to feud with a member of Pretty Deadly? Really? You know, and you think about it? So, I don't know. And what was the other thing you said? Am I going to watch the Naked Gun movie? Yeah, I think I am. I think I am. And I am going to watch the Spaceballs remake just for my love for Mel Brooks. So, yes, some remakes I will not even remotely think about. Naked Gun. I think Cody has a cameo in Naked Gun. I think Cody Rhodes has a cameo in that movie. I won't be surprised if others as well. But, yeah, I will check those two out. Listen, no matter how funny Naked Gun is, it'll never be the same without Leslie Nielsen. You know, it just, everything, you have to watch the movie 2 or 3 times to get every little inside joke. And it's amazing. When I first watched it and watched it again, I was like, hey, Airplane was like that too. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's see. Roderick is asking, what Raw's women's division lacking greatly in heels? What do I think of Naomi cashing in to win the women's world title? She'll easily be the top heel with new stories and foes. It's definitely a possibility, but I think WWE will tease the briefcase for an extended period of time. If she beats Tiffany Stratton too early, what do you do with Tiffany right now? But let's be honest. They're like revisiting Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. They're starting to it's getting a little, all right, we're doing a little rinse and repeat here. I think you have to have Naomi show up on a Monday Night Raw, and tease, facing somebody. I don't know. I think it's a little too soon, and I don't know if Naomi should cash in the briefcase at Evolution. I tell you, it would be interesting. She couldn't cash it in on like a TNA champion, right? I'm just brainstorming. Like, what would happen if she showed up with the briefcase and showed up in TNA? Because she was in TNA for a little while. She did a pretty damn good job over there, too. But no, of course, you're not going to waste the briefcase with TNA. I mean, you could bring NXT stars and Evolve stars to TNA, but you're not going to waste the briefcase with Naomi in TNA. So maybe SummerSlam. I agree. Maybe SummerSlam. SummerSlam's 2 nights, and I already see it now. Cardi B and Naomi having a little bit of a segment, and probably Bianca Belair will show up and, try to get a little revenge for Cardi B on Naomi. You will know at that time I will be making Pop-Tarts. I will be making Pop-Tarts. I don't eat Pop-Tarts, but I will make sure that I make Pop-Tarts. Even if I burn them and run it through the toaster twice. Honey, is that Cardi B segment done yet? No, it's not. All right, let me put it back in the toaster second time. All right. Havili sends this in. We're still on the topic of wrestling, so we will definitely talk about this as well. And this is something that I probably have to correct you a little bit. Why is Cena still on my screen? We already talked about Roxanne. Why Haku didn't return to the WWE after a short return in 01? Oh, actually, okay, I see what you said. As a proud Pacific Islander, any chance WWE taking a premium live event to Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand, or back to Hawaii? If and when the Lucha Brothers reunited in the WWE this year, would they be able to get their old AEW song back? I think, did Ruckus, I don't want anybody to super chat this, did Ruckus make the Lucha Bros theme? I think Ruckus is the one who made that. And if Ruckus made that theme, no, I don't see WWE using it. I'm pretty sure Ruckus made that song. Oh yeah, Pop-Tarts suck. They absolutely suck. They suck. I'm not kidding. I ate one like a week ago. It was like 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep and I was hungry. And I was looking in my closet to see what I can eat without cooking it. Just something quick. And my wife had these brown sugar Pop-Tarts. I didn't even put it in the toaster. I just grabbed it, brought it in my room and bit into it. And I'm like, this is awful. That has that big white coating on the front. You thought it's all sugar? So I was like, yes, sugar. And I bit into it. And it was like nothing. It was like a flavorful piece of cardboard. But no, getting back to the Lucha Bros. I'm pretty sure Ruckus made that song. Yeah, Bloody Money says that he did. Yeah, so I don't see Ruckus making a deal with WWE. Even if WWE reached out to him, I think Ruckus would say to Tony Khan, WWE offered me a lot of money if they could use the Lucha Bros, but I am loyal to you, Tony. And Tony will be so in debt. You know what's funny? Before I answer what Havili said, thank you for that 100, by the way. Too generous. You don't have to do that. I appreciate it, and it'll help. It'll go to definitely worthy cause. But something that you'll all appreciate. It'll be on the history show for this week because I already got a little head start. Do you guys remember, you'll get a kick out. Oh, and I have something else I'm going to share with all of you in a minute. You'll appreciate this too. I would have originally thought about using it as the thumbnail for tonight, but obviously everything that happened this week kind of comes first. Do you remember about 3 or 4 years ago? I think it might have been 4 years ago. Triple H was on a media call for NXT TakeOver. And Triple H said that he believes that WWE has the greatest women's wrestlers in the world. Nothing wrong with that comment, right? And then you all may remember Thunder Rosa. Before she went to AEW, Thunder Rosa responded back to Triple H, and she said, with all due respect, no one wrestling company has the greatest women of the world. Women are great women are everywhere in this world. And she directly took a shot at Triple H for that remark. I'm sure a lot of you remember that. Well, this week, just to show you when I go through my old notes, this week coming is the anniversary of Tony Khan, like 2 years ago, speaking to, I don't know if it was NBC or something, and Tony Khan was touting how he truly believes that AEW has the greatest women's wrestling in the world. Might have even been last year. I think it was 2 years ago, though, or a year and a half ago. And it's funny because if you look at Thunder Rosa and her usage right around the time that Tony Khan said that and afterwards, you almost think that Tony Khan was a little annoyed at Thunder Rosa for previously making that remark because she took Triple H to test. Says, no one promotion has the greatest, right? And Tony Khan says the same exact thing that Triple H said a couple of years later. It's pretty funny when you see it. And I got something else I want to share with you. It's not a big deal, but it's definitely something that you'll find interesting. A lot of people found interesting this. My God, guys, nobody talked about Camille since that fucking Queen of the Ring movie came out. And then suddenly we brought up how she's being ghosted, and suddenly everybody was talking about Camille without naming the podcasts. How many people, like 3 days later, Camille. Our sources tell us Camille. She's got the summer off. Camille. She can't multitask. Jade Cargill's going to be in a movie. She's still wrestling. Liv Morgan did a movie. 2 weeks later, she's wrestling. Why does Camille need a whole summer off? Camille. Early this year, Camille was doing a movie. What does that mean? She can't multitask? Camille. It's funny, we brought up Camille. Suddenly everybody talked about Camille. I'm going to bring up somebody else currently in AEW that you'll find very, very interesting. I have a thumbnail you'll definitely want to see. Haku, when WWE had first purchased WCW, for a very short period of time, he came back as part of WCW. The problem is that WWF and Vince McMahon always looked at Haku as Haku, not Meng. So when he came back, it was kind of like, okay, is he team WCW or is he back as Meng or as Haku? And I remember when he came back, and it was kind of, I think it was kind of like a baby face at the time. And it just seemed like they were too confused of, are we going to use him as back as a WWE guy, or is he WCW coming back? And I don't think WWF really ever wanted to call him Meng. It was either Haku or nothing. And unfortunately, and they weren't going to call him King Tonga. So, I just feel it just didn't fit. Plus, you got to remember, too, there was so many people on the roster at the time that he kind of fell through the cracks. So it just wasn't a good fit. And it's a shame. It's a shame because he could still do it. But if you remember, like, TNA came around in 2002. You didn't really see him, did you remember if any of you that were around at the time, do you remember TNA in 2002? We should seriously bring in Meng and give him a push and this and that. Maybe he could be an assassin for somebody. It just seemed like that was it. His career came to an abrupt halt, and I know he did a little bit still afterwards, but never on that level. Never on that level ever again. I could see WWE going to Hawaii. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they will go to Hawaii. I think that is definitely a possibility. I could see Rock pushing it. I could absolutely see them going to Hawaii. Samoa and Tonga, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it as a big moneymaker. And no, you cannot pay with fish, so I don't see that. New Zealand is possible. New Zealand is a little iffy. I tell you, that new TKO hiring that we talked about in the news update last week, remember that guy's name. I don't remember his name right now, but remember that guy's name because he is going to look to expand WWE across the globe. They will be trying to work out some deals with some countries that we haven't even thought about. So, but thank you for that. Thank you for that. Before we get into some other stuff, and I still have that one that you gave me earlier in the day, we will definitely talk about with the crushes. I want to share everybody with something, okay? I showed you this picture earlier. Mercedes Moné has 6 belts or whatever it is. And I think she will have more. I compared it to the Ultimo Dragon. She is the Ultimoné Dragon. Well, did anybody happen to see this tweet? It's almost like Viva Van gave it to me as a gift. Viva Van, she's in AEW. She signed with AEW at the end of 2024. Viva Van right now, I guess, has 6 titles. She's wrestled in Japan. She's wrestled for a lot of promotions. I think a lot of you out there like her, Viva Van. She's featured in Ring of Honor. Well, just coincidentally, my friends, last week on Patreon, I shared something about Viva Van that people found very, very interesting. Interesting enough that she was going to be my thumbnail for today. The thing, though, was I didn't know the best way to title it. I didn't know if I should title it Viva Van Nada. Viva Van Nada, as in zero, zilch, goose egg, fat nothing. I'm not saying she's a fat nothing, but you want to hear something interesting about Ms. Van? I absolutely applaud her for investing in herself. I applaud her for always promoting herself online. I follow her on Twitter. She is very good in the ring. She's beautiful. Everything about her I like. So you like to hear something interesting because Mercedes Moné tweeted Viva Van today. And Mercedes tells Viva Van, I dare you to put those titles on the line. And it's Viva Van holding 6 belts. Okay. One little statistic about Viva Van. Get a load of this. She signed with AEW in December of 2024. Since she signed and is all elite, the total number of matches that she has had on Dynamite and on Rampage and on pay-per-view in 2025 is 0. She has yet to have a match for AEW in 2025. Before she signed with AEW, she had 13 matches. And she wrestled, a whole bunch of stars. Her record in AEW before she signed the contract, she had 13 matches. She was perfect. She lost every single one of them. So she was 0-13, signs the deal, and now AEW says, we'll put her in Ring of Honor. So she's been in Ring of Honor this year, and she has had 14 matches this year in Ring of Honor. How many wins do you think Viva Van Nada has gotten this year in Ring of Honor? Ring of Honor! Goose. Viva Van has never won a match in AEW. So when you see Mercedes Moné post a tweet like that, and you know that Viva Van Nada has a 0-27 record in AEW, yeah. So kind of interesting, right? You would think, and she's has championships. She's wrestled all over the globe. 0-27. Just figured I'd share that because a lot of you probably didn't know. Because trust me, if you look at the comments on that tweet, Tony, book the match. Tony, you got to book the match. And I'm saying to myself, gee, I wonder what the fuck this outcome is going to be. What's this outcome going to be? All right. And OTS Tribal Queen, who's also holding the fort, she wonders why she never heard of her. Yeah, AEW signs her, and she's never had a match. Never. She had 13 matches on, Rampage. I don't know if she ever had a Dynamite match, but before she signed the contract, she had 13 matches. She was 0-13. Then they sign her, and they put her in Ring of Honor, and then she has 14 more matches, and she's 0-14 in those too. Yeah. Douche just checked it because he thought I was lying. I know he didn't think I was lying. He had to see for himself, and he says, DT, you're right. Trust me, when I put stuff on here, I might get a number slightly off because I usually do things by memory. I really don't like writing stuff down unless I absolutely have to, like Ultimo Dragon's title history, But look, with Mercedes Moné's championships, they're all promotions outside of the AEW. They're all promotions that need a little extra exposure. So, I guarantee you there are other wrestling promotions that have reached out to AEW and said, we would love Mercedes Moné to hold our championship. Acme Women's Wrestling. We would love Mercedes Moné to be our champion. We'll ship you the belt. Well, who's your champion right now? Well, it's kind of complicated. We kind of did a contest and blah, blah, blah. So you got to have a worthy established champion and somebody that actually could work a little bit. Shout out to Cat XTV, been lurking since 2017. Shout out to you. Tristan Slow, my thoughts on the Steve Austin, Vince McMahon Corvette segment. A lot of fun. Didn't like Vince McMahon's reaction when the glass broke. He was, instead of I'm going to kill that son of a bitch, he just looked and closed his eyes. But it was still funny. It was still funny. That was a nice car. I always wanted one of those cars. One of my customers offered me an 84 a couple of years ago for free. One of my customers offered me a 1984 red Corvette for free. And I looked it up and I realized 1984 was the worst year for Corvettes. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to take that problem off your hands and I'm going to have nothing but problems myself. If it would have been a 78 Corvette, absolutely. I like the smaller Corvettes, even though it would have been funny watching me get in and out of that car, being that I'm 6'4" and, 270, whatever. Rocky Red, thank you very much for your generosity, my friend. Rocky Red, let's get into what you said. I'm just waiting for it to pop up on the screen. And by the way, guys, whoever your crushes were growing up, get it ready. I'm very curious to reveal the ages Like if anybody out there says Phyllis Diller was their celebrity crush, just please sign me as your beneficiary on your life insurance policy because you must be close to death. I'm just saying that kidding. Thank you, Rocky Red. He thinks Seth Rollins cashes in the briefcase at Saturday night's main event and wins the title either during the match or after Goldberg wins and Gunther snaps. Gunther wins. Who does he face? Jey Uso again? No, sir. Seth is the way to go. I absolutely do not want to see an L in the column for Gunther. I will tweak what you said. I haven't thought about this beforehand. If WWE dares do something like that, have Seth cash in the briefcase and let it be a three-way. And let Seth Rollins win it that way. Let him pin Goldberg. Let him pin Goldberg. We get the best of both worlds. Gunther doesn't get pinned. Goldberg retires and Seth Rollins is champion. I just don't see Gunther. Listen, I said something last week. I was very surprised on how much traction it got. I said if you really, really think about it, and this is a take that I don't think anybody's ever given, WWE doesn't creatively know how to use Gunther. And let me elaborate on that. Trust me, I'm not trying to be Dave LaGreca right now. I haven't lost that many brain cells. What I mean by that is when someone is champion, you just need challengers. When Gunther lost the championship, instead of being on a rampage to get it back from Jey Uso, he starts messing with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. Now, obviously, that was WWE creative doing that, but you realized that when Gunther is not champion, they creatively don't know what the fuck to do. All they did was Pat McAfee. And what happened? 1 week, you got Michael Cole saying, we should never be treated like this. It's an unsafe working environment. I'm going to walk off the set. I want police here. And then 2 weeks later, I got my ass kicked from Gunther, but I have to give him respect. And suddenly everybody's blowing each other. Even Gunther in his promo, Pat McAfee. I kicked his ass, but I have respect. At least he got in the ring with me. And Michael Cole's talking like nothing ever happened. It's like you realize without Gunther being champion, they don't know what the fuck to do creatively. They don't have Imperium anymore. Where's Ludwig Kaiser? I mean, I expect him to be back soon, but what the fuck's going on with him? We don't even get anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, Gunther. You don't even get that no more. We don't have Samantha Irvin doing it anymore. We don't even have Ludwig Kaiser doing it anymore. So you look at Gunther, like the best way to creatively use him is let him be champion. This person's trying to beat him. This person wants the belt. This person wants the belt. This one wants to win a tournament. This one wants this. This one wants that. Well, Gunther's just got to sit back. And when WWE gives him an opponent, then Gunther to Damian Priest, you're white trash. Sami Zayn, you're this. Jey Uso, you're this. This person, you're this. So Gunther just has to react on his opponent. But without the championship, WWE doesn't know what to do with him. The best they could come up with was Pat McAfee. So I don't want to see Goldberg beat Gunther, even if he lost it a minute later. Even if he lost it a minute later, I don't want to see Gunther with that loss. I don't want to see it. And I don't think we'll see it. I think Gunther will tap him out. If I don't know how I feel about Seth Rollins cashing it in on Gunther either. I don't know how I feel about that. Look, Night of Champions, we're probably going to get Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes going to SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes versus Cena. Do you possibly get Seth Rollins involved in that? I just don't know. Right now, I don't want to see Seth Rollins cash in. Seth Rollins was world heavyweight champion not that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. So there's no need to put the belt on Seth right now. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But if you're forced to do something, then put him in a three-way. Listen, yeah, you don't want to see Goldberg tap out. You know what they could do? They could literally have Gunther choke him out and just Goldberg passes out. He never gave up. He just passed out. So Gunther is still champion. Goldberg retires. And Goldberg did not submit, did not tap out. Listen, if you could have Gunther tap out to Jey Uso, you can have Goldberg tap out to Gunther. But they don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. Guy in Chaos says, hypothetical question, Gunther versus Walter, who wins, in my opinion? You know, I actually just rewatched, and I put on the history show this weekend, Gunther versus Adam Cole for the NXT North American Championship, which Adam Cole defeated him. And I watched the match before I put the audio on the history show. And I was looking at Walter very, very closely. And yes, he was heavier. But Walter was very similar of what he is now. If you look at Walter from several years ago, his repertoire is still very, very similar. And I personally think Gunther now is just so much more polished across the board. So I would say Gunther now would beat Walter of then. Now, if you're going to say Walter of NXT going up against Ilya, then I would say probably Walter. But it's, you know, that was a special circumstance, and that match brought out the ultimate best out of both. I still think Walter versus Ilya is one of the greatest matches in the last 10 years. Spectacular match. Just everything about it. It just, you felt it, the emotion, everything. Not JPEG says, were there any reports by Dave Meltzer that had credibility? Dave was very accurate back in the day. Not everything was perfect, but he had more connections back in the day. The fact of the matter is, and I've brought this up before, and listen, I'm not trying to act like a journalist here. I'm an opiner, first and foremost, but I have friends. I became friends with people over the years that work for all the promotions. And one person in particular, who is very close with Kev as well, told us over a year ago that TKO had a meeting with management, and management had a meeting with the WWE wrestlers and said, we do not leak business. We do not leak business. So, you know, that really tightened up. You know, TKO don't tolerate that shit. And a lot of wrestlers, if they want you to know, and WWE doesn't have a problem with it, they will let you know. If there's somebody backstage or something like that, yeah, a wrestler will text someone and said, you won't believe who's backstage, and they'll tell you. Sometimes, you know, we used to get things and Kevin will respond and be like, I don't want to know. I'm like, shut up, I want to know. You know, but sometimes it's better to be surprised. But TKO had this meeting when they first took over. We do not leak out business. And that closed a lot of connections. That's why I say nothing against Dave Meltzer. I still support him. But if he would be more of an analyst now instead of a journalist, he would be 10 times better because he could give opinion. We ripped apart his claim that he had been given the source about CM Punk in Saudi Arabia. And he said he watched the video months before anyone else. And we went back on the timeline and he was wrong. He either misremembered, you know, or he was lying. And when we went through the timeline, you realized, you know, how ridiculously untrue it was. And this happens repeatedly. The telltale sign when there's a lie is when something comes out after something happens. For example, you didn't hear weeks before, months before, CM Punk is confirmed for Saudi Arabia. No, what happened was a video came out, and at the very end of the Night of Champions video, you saw CM Punk go, and then all of a sudden, oh, I was given that video months ago. No, you didn't. That's not true. And then he was replaced with Seth Rollins a day later because everybody was focused on CM Punk. WWE was like, we don't want to make it obvious that CM Punk is going to take on John Cena in Saudi Arabia. So they took CM Punk off the advertiser, put Seth Rollins in his place. Then they let the storyline build, and then we got what we got on TV. And, he was making a claim, oh, I was notified and saw that video months before. No, you didn't. That's not true. And you see this over and over again. You see information about wrestlers, contracts, injuries. The best one recently was Eric. Eric is off TV because WWE creatively has nothing for him. And Eric is like, oh, really? That's funny. I'm looking around and I'm on IV right now, about to get my neck surgery. So unfortunately, these days, you could tell when people are just guessing. All right, let's start bringing this home soon. Avili, thank you for the 300, the 300. All right. It's probably around noontime, his time right now. By the way, I should have said this right at the beginning of the show. Happy 32nd birthday, and a big fuck you that I'm 24 years older than you. What year was I 32? 19. Wow, just say 19, it sucks. 1994? No, wait, no. 32 years, no, 2001. Wait, yeah. I was 32 years old when 9/11 hit. Yeah. I was 32 years old when 9/11 hit. That just shows you how time flies. I mean, 9/11 doesn't feel like it happened yesterday, but does it feel like it happened 24 years ago? No. So happy birthday to you, my friend. What was my celebrity crush growing up? Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat? Have I watched Karate Kid, and if so, my favorites? Okay. First of all, Guardian of Chaos was 32 in 1994. That's right. You're 7 years older than me. Time flies, man, right? But you know what's awesome, man? I'm not throwing any shade for anybody that's younger today. But you see how much we spend on our computers now. You see how much we spend on our phones. I meet customers every day. I do routes. And even when I'm driving by and I see people walking by, everybody's looking at their phone. It's funny because, even back in the day when we had Walkmans for the most part, and even iPods, like you would see people listening to music, but it wasn't like you had to, listen to it every moment that you were in commute. And these days, everybody's glued to phones, but even online, even though we're older, I absolutely, when I tell stories from back in the day, playing softball, going to clubs, hanging out with my friends, having incidents with wrestlers, doing this, going there. What does it all have in common? A shitload of it was before this age of iPhone and this stage of social media. I mean, when I was doing stuff for VPW and USA Pro and Jersey All Pro School and others, even doing the managing stuff, that was the mid-2000s. The mid-2000s, the closest you had to social media other than instant chats was MySpace. And even MySpace, you didn't spend a lot of time on it. For the most part, you would post music stuff, or you had all those Q&A stuff. You played mobsters, but you really didn't spend that much time on it. So I'm not happy that I'm older now. It's scary. I mean, I'm not saying this is a plug for Patreon, Anybody that's a member of our Patreon family knows that the shows that we do there are much more personal. We talk about life. We talk about wrestling too, but we talk about life. And I'm not saying this to bring anybody down, but it's scary. This year is fucking scary to see how many people that I know personally who have died. And a lot of them were my age and younger. And, you know, like I say to myself, like I look, you know, here, I'll reveal something. I don't know how good this is going to come off on camera, but people were asking me about Ric Flair having skin cancer. And I don't know what severity he has. I don't know if it's melanoma. I don't know what stage it is. But, you know, like I did some reading about Ric Flair's, what it could be. And I have skin cancer. I have not gone to the doctor for it. I'm sure you could see it. If I go a little further, you'll see I have like a little growth somewhere. You could see it. Doesn't look bad right now because I put like this cream cover up. It's like a zit cream or whatever, but this has been here for years. It just gets redder and redder. And yeah, actually, I don't know if you could see it, but I don't know if you could really see it, but it's right there. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little, you know, not happy. I haven't gone to a skin doctor yet. I'm afraid. But, you know, as far as I know, you know, it's fine. Look at this. I think this is eczema. But I've had people tell me it's something else. I'm not saying this for sympathy. My point is, you know, you get to a certain age now and you start thinking to yourself, shit, got to take things a little more seriously. Got to be a little bit more careful. We see what happened with Kev. You know, it's horrible to know my co-host is gone. My friend is gone. You know, could it have been prevented? Probably, but doesn't take away the fact that, you know, you just never know. That's why I always say tomorrow's never tomorrow's never guaranteed. You never know. AS7607, happy birthday to you. Her birthday is tomorrow. You know, that's why I always say, enjoy yourselves as much as you can. Be happy, whatever your escape is. For a lot of people, just going online and socializing with people is a great escape. You know, for a lot of people, it's other things. Me growing up, even though I'm older and Chaos is older and some others, you know, I will never, ever take back what we used to do in the 80s, in the 90s, even in the 2000s. You know, because phones and internet was not priority. There was a good balance. I think it started getting a little out of whack around 2008, 2009. I think that's when it really started to shift as far as being online all the time. Nothing against, no issues with anybody that, you know, spends a lot of time online today. But back in the day when that wasn't the focus, you went out more, you did more things, you know, going out. Even, you know, my wife, when I met her 13 years ago, we go to a pumpkin patch, we go here, we go there, we go out, do this. You know, now, you know, it's a lot different. Now, as far as Karate Kid goes, I was never a fan of Karate Kid. Here's a true story. In 1984, that movie came out. And I don't remember who I was dating at the time, but I remember 3 of my friends, we were all going to go to the movies together as couples. And the girls all started talking about how cute Ralph Macchio was. I remember my friend Joey was like, I ain't going to the fucking movie. I'm not going to the fucking movie. Like, because his girl was talking about how cute Ralph Macchio was, we didn't go. So I didn't go. And at that time, you know, you had to wait for it to show up on cable television, was probably a good year. And in 1985, we went to New York City. And a lot of you will remember part of this story. And we had 2 bad interactions with actors. One time we were in the city in Greenwich Village, and we were walking down some street. I don't remember where it was. It was right by J&R Music World, I think it was called. It was Tower Records. And somebody like walking the other way goes right into my friend Paul. And my friend's like, watch where you're fucking walking. And then we turn around and my friend goes, oh shit. And it was Rob Lowe. And, we ended up talking to him. He was very cool after that. Then we went to like some gathering somewhere. There was a bunch of people, commotion. And it ends up that Ralph Macchio was in New York City. I don't know if he was doing a photo shoot or whatever, but it was right near Central Park. And everybody was like, and you hear all these girls, oh my God, he's so cute. And you hear all these screams like, ugh. So I just never liked him after that. I don't know why, but all the girls with the high-pitched screaming, oh my God, he's cute. Fuck you. After that, I just wanted to see like Yamaguchi go rogue and fucking get a sword. Isn't that his name, Mr. Yamaguchi? He was Alfred in Happy Days. I wanted to get a sword. Behead that motherfucker. In character, not for real, not in real life. When he did my cousin Vinny, I was like, okay, all right. Mr. Miyagi, Yamaguchi, what was he? All the Japanese, you fucking racist. Yamaguchi is not even his name. It's Mr. Miyagi. I don't remember his name. I didn't watch it. Never watched any of the movies. Just never got into it. I still remember that character from Karate Kid. Who's the character that showed up on AEW that time? Wasn't he with Britt Baker? Britt Baker's like, we need his guidance so I could win a match. And he like disappeared. Who is the guy? Who is that guy? He was like the bad guy from the movie, right? Konnichiwa. Who's the guy that showed up on AEW Dynamite time? Martin Culverese? Is that his name? That guy I was a fan of. Believe it or not, RD, I speak Japan better than I speak Spanish now. You hear me read the results, even on the history shows, like Japanese, I'm like, no problem. And you hear me just draw out names of people like, how did you do? Spanish now, I get stumped. Like even this week, I think we did the results of some AAA show. I think it was a AAA show. And can't remember who was in it. It was definitely a lot of notable names. And like, I was just butchering every name, man. Every name. As far as video games go, I was always a Sub-Zero guy when it comes to Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. I enjoyed the fighting games, but for me growing up, and this probably is an unpopular take compared to a lot of others out there, but you know which fighting game that I enjoyed more than anything? And I think I know why, even though I never thought about this at the time. Streets of Rage. Does anybody remember the game Streets of Rage? I think the only reason why I really enjoyed that more was because it had like a lot of techno music at the time. Because I played that game again not too long ago on a handheld. I was like, I don't remember the music being this good. But Streets of Rage, I freaking used to love that game. But me, Mortal Kombat, more than Street Fighter. Yeah, Benjamin says Streets of Rage is awesome. Streets of Rage was a fun game, man. The only thing I like about it, because at least with Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, you pick up the guy's head after you kill him, and it's a lot of blood. Streets of Rage, when you killed someone, it would just like blink and disappear. I mean, that's not fun. Like, where's like the R-rated version of Streets of Rage? Like that's not very ragey that you beat someone up and all of a sudden just the light flickers and they disappear. So, yeah. Thank you for the GOAT comments. I really appreciate it. I appreciate that more and more, especially now, with Kev no longer here. It's not easy. And I'm not saying this for any sympathy. It's not easy to sit here and you want to debate. You want to have a back and forth. I mean, can't tell you how many times, Kev, you want to talk about this tonight? Kev, we got to get into this tonight. Kev, I got to do this. And you see things happen, even the stuff for tonight. You guys are my Kev Castle now. That's the truth. It's not easy to want to debate and it's nobody there, you know, and I'm not going to beg people out there, hey, you want to come on and do this? I've had people ask me like, hey, you know, you want to come on for a show once in a while? I'm like, yeah, let me know. Nothing. You know, people have reached out. I mean, I'm not ready to take on another host. I don't plan on doing that, you know, in 2025. You know, if something comes up next year and it's a good fit, maybe. But it's not fun. It's not fun to want to have a good debate and discussion and bounce off. And then you realize, nah. Casey's Raw, did I know Mortal Kombat was actually more censored on Sega Genesis than NES? I do remember that. But I wasn't a real Super NES guy. I mean, like I had Nintendo. And when Super NES came out, like we thought the graphics were going to be so much better and everything, but there was so many games that I liked from Nintendo. Like I went from Nintendo to PlayStation. I had Genesis and I had ColecoVision. I had Atari when it came out. Shows you how old I am. But I remember going from Nintendo to PlayStation. I remember having Saturn for a very short period of time. I did have Sega CD. Sega CD was a trip. I look back on it and I can't believe how awful those fucking games were. Nice concept with the disc, but when PlayStation came out, that was it. That was it. Thank you, Botch Club. I appreciate it. He acknowledges me. Salute to you too, my friend. Salute. Much love. Much love. Yeah, I could follow you. I mean, on Instagram, I mean, I haven't been on Instagram in ages, but I think I need to start. I just, you know, social media is really like bummed me out. You know, just even when you try to have rational conversations, I realize unless you're really over the top with certain things, like people just aren't interested. And there's only so many cute dog pictures I could post. Like if I go on Twitter right now and post a picture of Bella when I first got her, I'll get 8,000 responses. Oh my God, she's amazing. You know, she looks a lot different now, obviously. This is what Bella looks like now. Same dog. Same dog. By the way, Bruno, yesterday was 1 year that we have Bruno. He still looks exactly the same. That is Bruno. 1 year. 1 year. He actually, that picture is about 5 months ago, and he still looks exactly the same. So, very cool dogs. Very cool dogs. All right. Havili also said, who's my celebrity crush? So my friends out there, growing up, who were your celebrity crushes? See, you got to understand something. In 1979, I was only 10 years old. So I didn't have any celebrity crushes around that time. Around mid 80s, when I got like 14, 15, 16 years old, that's when you started having celebrity crushes. Casey's Raw says Drew Barrymore. Roderick Howard says Jennifer Lopez. Back in the 80s, one of my celebrity crushes, believe it or not, was, I'm going to reveal one that no one out there would ever think of. Tootie from Facts of Life. Kim Fields, something about Kim Fields, I had a crush on her. I always thought Kim Fields was cute. I always thought, who was the girl on Family Ties? I know her last name is Keaton. I can't remember her first name right now. The girl from Family Ties, I had a little crush on her because she would never wear bras. You know, she would wear bras once in a while in Family Ties, but once in a while, you know, as a teenager, you'd be like, okay, she's not wearing a bra. What was her name? Justine Bateman, that's right. I had a little crush on her. I had a crush on Cindy Crawford growing up. Cindy Crawford was another one. Believe it or not, this is raunchy, but you got to understand we're almost the same age. So when you're 16, 17, and then you see Tracy Lords in a video, I mean, that's how we got introduced to adult movies other than scrambled porn. So Tracy Lords was another one. Who was the girl from, I was always a brunette type of guy, from Charlie's Angels, not Jacqueline, no wait, Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels. I don't know why, but when I watched Charlie's Angels in the 80s, I had a little crush on Jacqueline Smith. I thought she was beautiful. She had she was kind of, she kind of looked like Miss Elizabeth, but you know, like a superwoman. Like if I dated her, she would kick anybody's ass. Anybody gave me a problem. So I had a little crush on her too. Cindy Crawford was a crush of a lot of people back in the day. Just after a while, you just kind of wanted her to burn that little mole off her face. You know who was another one? Who was the actress in Desperately Seeking Susan? She, Rosanna Arquette? Wait, why does that not sound right? Rosanna Arquette? Was that Desperately Seeking? So that movie came out in 1985. You guys have no idea. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. There's got to be documentaries about it. Rosanna Arquette, yeah, it just doesn't sound right for some reason. Maybe because I'm thinking of Patricia Arquette. In 1985, when Desperately Seeking Susan came out, Madonna was in the movie too. Everybody I knew dressed like Madonna. You know, the funny thing is, you know, I just happen to have like weird stuff on this computer still. This video is my graduation video from 1987 when I brought home the chair. I mean, I'm not going to show it now, but that video, you see me taking home the chair. I revolutionized taking home the chair after events. I took my chair home from 1987, my folding chair. But 2 years earlier, I got to show you footage from our Halloween party from our school. It's controversial because you have white people dressed as blacks. You have Irish people dressed up as Arabs. You have guys dressing up as girls dressing up as guys. And this is a Catholic school. And almost, I say 75% of the girls all dressed up as Madonna or Rosanna Arquette from that movie. It was amazing how many people were wearing the lace and having even the hair on one eye, across one eye. That revolutionized the way people dressed in the mid-'80s. It's crazy. Jimmy Finger says his first celebrity crushes in the 70s were Julie Newmar, Farrah Fawcett. I still remember that picture. And Tatum O'Neal. Tatum O'Neal, you know, she was in Bad News Bears. A little too young, I think, at that time. When she started getting a little bit older, she started getting on the radar. You know who's another one that I put in the same category as Tatum O'Neal? Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster, I thought, was a little too young when she was in the movie with Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver. When she got a little bit older, that's when people started taking notice of her. Trying to think who else. Okay, Boris says Angelina Jolie. To me, Angelina Jolie is kind of like what followed Cindy Crawford. Like, you had 10 years of Cindy Crawford. I feel like you got Angelina Jolie in that. Garner Care says Anne Margaret. Wasn't there a story that Ric Flair claimed that he met Anne Margaret in New York City and took her to a hotel room and slept with her? I could swear that happened. I kind of remember covering that with Matt Zombie back in the late 90s. Jessica Alba is another one. Yes, that is a spectacular one. Not JPEG. Absolutely, Susanna Hoffs. When she did that music video, Walk Like an Egyptian, and she's standing there trying to look a little innocent, and and I can't make this up. I mean, I haven't thought about that name in God knows how many years. I remember when she did that music video and she tried to act all innocent in it. I remember people really going out of their way talking about it. Kelly LeBrock was too tall for me. Kelly LeBrock, she was the lady in red, right? Was she Weird Science also? I think she was in Weird Science. Pamela Anderson, I never got into because right around Baywatch is when that video came out with her and Tommy Lee on the boat. I always thought she was a little too raunchy. And she's in The Naked Gun. She's in The Naked Gun. Matt asks, he finally saw the Jerky Boys movie. Have I seen it? No, I haven't seen it. I mean, I got so played out with the Jerky Boys, with the tapes and all the skits at the time. I mean, one day I will definitely see it. I was a big fan of the Jerky Boys back in the day. They revolutionized the pranks. You know, they did it at a time. They do it now, you get arrested. I still remember me and my friends calling each other Chisel Chest. Jerky Boys were great. Jerky Boys made so much money back then. And you think about it, they didn't have to do much. Funny thing is, I remember when people like, oh, I want to see the Jerky Boys in concert. I'm like, what are they going to do? Prank people? Anna Nicole Smith. Yeah, she was, what a horrible disaster. But, you know, that guy enabled her. The guy that, you know, I say this to this day. Anna Nicole Smith's story reminds me so much of Joni Lara, China. You know, I'm a little curious. I want to ask you all guys something. And thank you, Havili, again. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you, very generous of you. Nice to bring back some names that we haven't thought about in years and years and years. But I want to ask you, Paula Abdul. Paula Abdul, absolutely. When I took my ex-girlfriend to the concert and we sat front row and she did a whole concert and she did that song with the stuffed bear or whatever it was, the dog. She's just, I have pictures of it still. They're in somewhere in this room. But there's one picture that we were sitting front row and I had my camera and she looked right at the camera and she smiled and then took the picture. And my girlfriend thought it was so cute. She smiled for us and everything. And you look at the picture, she definitely was like right on camera. But I remember developing the film and I was just sitting there like, I want to ask you guys something. Thank you, Avili, for that. I want to ask you guys an opinion. Be honest. Just say yes or no. All right. I was going through my history notes, stuff I covered years past, because I've been doing this since 97. I keep shitloads of notes when we cover things in real time. And I do have files dated. I don't know, they're not complete, but enough. And I don't know if I should share this for this week. Only reason why I'm thinking about it is because Evolution is coming up. So, little controversy. This week is the anniversary of Nikki Bella getting into a little bit of hot water. Do you remember the AJ Lee pipe bomb? Remember the AJ Lee pipe bomb? Anybody remember what year that was? Was that 2012? Was that 11 or 12? The AJ Lee pipe bomb. All right. And it might even be 13. I don't remember if it's 12 or 13. I think it was 2013. I think it was 2013. But anyway, that year doesn't really matter. But let me tell you why. And you tell me if I should put this on a history show or not. So this week, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, a little controversy happened. And when I tell you the controversy, you'll look back on it and you'll say, you know what? This might be one of the reasons why AJ Lee cut a pipe bomb. Whatever year that AJ Lee cut that pipe bomb, a month before the pipe bomb, Nikki Bella and Brie Bella. Okay, thank you. 2013. Stinger says August 26, 2013. Okay, good. It kind of makes sense now. Yeah, a month or two before. So picture this. AJ Lee cuts the pipe bomb August of 2013. This week in 2019, I think it was, a video resurfaced. And Nikki Bella got into a lot of hot water. And this was because of Evolution. In 2013, around June, maybe early July, Nikki Bella and Brie Bella were on some show. Joan Rivers was hosting it. I don't know, the celebrity, whatever, or something about dress and style. And Joan Rivers was showing the Bellas pictures of women. And Joan Rivers shows the Bellas a picture of Joni Lara, China. Now, keep in mind, this was filmed and recorded about a month or two before AJ Lee's pipe bomb. Now, remember, icon, revolutionary, paving the way, trailblazers, blah, 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 blah. So the Bellas are on this show, and Joan Rivers shows them a picture of Joni Lara. And they're sitting there and they're like, I don't know if she's a man or a woman. And they were saying that Joni Lara, she really has a penis. So it rehashed a couple of years ago because of Evolution, and Nikki Bella got a lot of heat for it. So now you go back to 2013. AJ Lee, as far as I know, was always inspired by Joni Lara, China. So AJ Lee cuts this pipe bomb 2 months later and goes after women and Bellas and Nikki Bella for, sleeping their way to get to the top. You know the whole pipe bomb. So my question is this. This week coming up is the anniversary that the video leaked out, and Nikki Bella had a lot of heat for it because of Evolution that was coming up. Should I put that on a history show? Should I put it out there, or should I just leave it alone? Because I wonder if that appearance on E and making fun of Joni Lara pissed off AJ Lee that much more. So when she cut the pipe bomb, that was a little bit of a personal shot too. So far I'm getting a bunch of yeses. I don't know how much AJ Lee was inspired by China. I don't know. I do know that a lot of women around that time said that Joni Lara was an inspiration because, how she was able, physique, and how she was able to, work with men also. Like, she was very intimidating. So everybody says yes. Okay. I mean, when I put it together on the show, it'll make more sense, but I don't know. You know what I'm going to do between now and this coming weekend? I will do some research, and I'll check out some AJ Lee interviews and see if she ever talked about Joni Lara and if she was ever inspired by her. If I do find that she was, then I pose the question. Could her pipe bomb been a little bit more inflamed because of this footage of the Bellas, not even 2 months earlier, going on E and making fun of Joni Lara, calling her a man? Got to remember, too, 2013, Joni Lara was not in the greatest of condition. She was battling a lot of issues at that time. This wasn't a time where Joni Lara was doing very, very well. So that video was kind of rough. I mean, it definitely didn't age well. Let's be honest. Okay. We're at 2 hours and 18 minutes. We will finish at 2.5 hours, so we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes. Again, I thank you all for spending some time today, tonight, in the morning, whenever you do. I always appreciate it very much. Right now, it looks like Oklahoma City is going to get this. Right now, the Thunder in the fourth quarter is winning 90-75. So it looks like Oklahoma will win it, Oklahoma City. So it's not official yet, but I don't see a Knicks-like comeback. 15 down in the fourth. Oof. Steven, I appreciate what you said. I know why you're saying it. Will WWE move Night of Champions? I say this not directed to you, but directed at all the news outlets out there that are using a real life tense situation of the United States bombing Iran for clicks. Iran getting bombed from the United States has nothing to do with WWE getting on a plane, going to Saudi Arabia. All right. The idea that people are saying that will Night of Champions or how WWE Night of Champions will be affected by the war in Iran, those are people just looking for clicks. Anybody using a real life situation like that, which is very, very serious, and trying to make it seem like WWE may have issues traveling, fuck you. Fuck you. Anybody doing that is doing that for clicks. Any tense going on, that's asinine. No, WWE will have no issues going to Saudi Arabia because of bombings in Iran. That's ridiculous. And that's strictly for hits and clicks. And that is terrible. Not saying you did it, but they're doing this to get people concerned. Oh, it's fucked up. It's more fucked up than you realize. Dog, 29J, please talk about this story, seeing Color Me Bad and Paul Abdul and Kev getting shocked and asking, how rainbow am I? Always has him laughing. The only thing I could add to it, for those that don't know, when I went to Paul Abdul, I think it was 1991, whatever year it was. And again, I have the pictures somewhere nearby. And I promise you, one day in the near future, when I clean a little bit and pictures come up, I will show you. I will show you. I took my ex-girlfriend, the Dominican with the triplets, to see Paul Abdul. She loved Paul Abdul at the time. I don't remember how I got the tickets, how much I paid for it. I paid a lot. I wanted to get laid. So I got front row. And nice tickets, not center, but to the right. But the stage, if anybody goes back and looks at Paul Abdul live and in concert in 1991, stage was very, very wide. She would go on both sides, and nice little performance. Nothing like Prince back in the day or Michael Jackson, but still, nice little performance. Color Me Bad opened up for Paul Abdul. And I hated them because my ex-girlfriend loved the song, Sex You Up or whatever it is. So every time I'd be in a car with her driving somewhere, always seemed to that fucking song on Hot 97 or whatever it was at the time. I have to hear that freaking song over and over again. So when we went to the concert and they open up, I'm like, these motherfuckers, like you can't get somebody else. Color Me Bad, open up for them. And it was like, they kind of remind me of Jersey Shore before there was Jersey Shore. I hated them. And then lo and behold, one of my favorite movies of all time, New Jack City, comes out. And I have to deal with this fucking song again. The scene with Wesley Snipes and the other guy, and they got the two girls in the room, and I'm here, ooh, I fucking hate that song. I am so glad that they faded into oblivion, because if they would have been somewhat successful afterwards, just think, for the next 30 years, I have to deal with fucking, Live at Jones Beach, Color Me Bad. Color Me, didn't like them, man. Fucking hated them. Nothing personal. But you know who I hated too back in the day? Belle Biv DeVoe. Now you know. I hated them too. That girl is poison. I fucking hated them as much as I hated Color Me Bad. That's all I would hear. I'd be like, my God, this is what I have to deal with? And she loved it. Hated that song, man. Oh, I dealt with New Edition, New Kids on the Block, Menudo. Those are fine. I had no issues with any of them. Even Kev's favorite performer from back in the day, Geraldo. Anybody remember Geraldo? Oh my God, that guy. Talking about a one-hit wonder. Rico Suave. That guy I wanted to see get hit by a car. Seriously. Because his music video came out and he thinks he's dancing and he's in sync, and they do a Spanish version too. I had to deal with not only the American version of Rico Suave, but I had to deal with the fucking Spanish version too. But it is funny to look back. I don't hate the guy anymore. I actually watched the music video not too long ago just to be reminded. Back then, I actually laughed at it. I don't have any issues with him. Nah, no more about the ex-girlfriend today. Another day. Plus, she might have her ear against the door, and she's like, what's he talking about? We'll talk about it another time. And I'm going to really try to find those pictures. I'm like looking around. I don't see them, but they are around. I think I know where they are. I think they might be in the cabinet behind me, but we'll look. I'll look during the week. I'll see if I can find it. All right. Kevin Milwaukee, Doink the Clown only missed being in the Attitude Era by 1 year. Couldn't he had some good heel storylines with the relaxed TV guidelines from the segments, like with Val Venus. Doink the Clown in the Attitude Era, that's just asking for trouble, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think back to when Howard Finkel turned into the perv. Howard Finkel, I tell you, man, so underappreciated in 2025. When Howard Finkel was feuding with Lillian Garcia, and he was, oh my God. I think Doink the Clown in the Attitude Era, you know what? The funny thing is, this is true. I remember Doink the Clown showing up in ECW one time, and 911 chokeslammed him. And I'm not talking about, the person outside of Doink the Clown. I'm talking about the Doink the Clown character. Got chokeslammed once. Nobody wanted to see Doink the Clown. I don't know. Like, the only way I could see Doink the Clown succeeding in the Attitude Era is if he did some really, really fucked up jokes or perverted shit. Like, I think people want to, just like Eugene. Eugene, ultimately, people wanted to see him get beat up. When he got beat up by Sandman on ECW One Night Stand, that was orgasmic for a lot of people. Like, I remember covering it at the time, and people like, why are people like so into someone who's playing someone slow getting beat up like that? And, it is kind of morbid when you think about it, but Doink the Clown, the only way I see Doink the Clown in the Attitude Era is if he gets destroyed or he turns into a perv. Seriously. I mean, I just can't see it. I can't see it. Even if he was evil Doink, he'd have to be like pervert Doink. I don't see it. Maggie's been scared of clowns even as a child, but worse as an adult because of John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was obviously a serial killer, mental. It's good that he was killed in prison. He was sentenced to death. This is not a positive, but at least John Wayne Gacy didn't use the clown outfit to lure little kids. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at it like that, I'm not trying to humanize the guy. The guy who's disturbed. When Pogo the Clown did his gimmick in XPW, let me tell you something. Pogo the Clown was one of the nicest people I ever met in wrestling. I still remember literally like sitting on my bed in the hotel room, talking to Pogo the Clown. He's telling me about being a truck driver outside of wrestling and just telling me about his life. And what a nice man. And I remember asking him, like, how do you feel about playing this character? He's like, look, it's a character. He says, that's not me and this and that. He says, but he does feel somewhat uncomfortable doing it. So my point is, looking back at John Wayne Gacy, at least this was not a guy using the clown outfit to lure little children. You know what I mean? It doesn't make it any better, but I don't think I ever got scared because of clowns because of him. Because, for the most part, he wasn't a clown. He was a construction worker. So, but still, I understand. I know a lot of people that have been scared of clowns growing up. Clowns can be listen, Howdy Doody, you go ever watch episodes of Howdy Doody? I haven't watched one in years, but I do remember episodes of Howdy Doody that he'd go up to kids, hey kids, and your kids would be crying. Kids would be scared shit of him. And he'd be standing there with the horn and kids would be crying. Dog29 says, father figure by George Michael or Candy by Cameo. Cameo was awesome, man. Even though Word Up was too poppy, tastes like candy. See, I can't make this up. I haven't thought of Cameo in decades, but, Dog just sent the super shout out and it throws back memories. Oh, Cameo was great, man. I was always envious of the hair. I remember his hair. He did a commercial, I think, for Pepsi. I think they did a commercial for soda. I kind of remember Cameo doing a commercial for soda. They actually went further than I thought they would. Word Up turned into a pop sensation. But I do remember Candy. I do remember that song, listening to it on Kiss FM. I don't remember any of the lyrics, but I remember it tastes like candy, short and sweet. It probably didn't even say that. Anybody remember when the wrestlers were on Charmed? Sure. I remember WrestleVision. That was the time I was doing WrestleVision online. I fucking miss doing that. That was so much fun doing WrestleVision. 25 years ago, guys, on my website, wrestling-news.com, you go on Wayback Machine, you could see it. I used to do a weekly TV guide. It was so popular, Meltzer would put it in his newsletter. That is true. Georgianne would put it on One Wrestling and Wrestling Figs everywhere else. Everybody put it everywhere. What I would do is I would scour cable TV and I would find any TV show, any movie, any pay-per-view, anything that had a wrestler in it. And trust me, I don't have any screenshots in front of me right now, but if you ever pull up a weekly thing that I did of WrestleVision, it's like this. There would be like 40, 50, 60 listings. And it would be whatever TV station, whatever day, whatever time it was on. Anything that had a wrestler in it, I posted it. It was called WrestleVision. I did a lot of shit back in the day. Honestly, my three most creative things that I still am very appreciative of doing is the History Show because of the work put into it, WrestleVision, and Tombstone Radio. I am the only internet wrestling music station that got permission from WWE to play their music on my station, Live 365. I had Tombstone Radio for at least 2 years. And I remember back in the day, you're getting sued. I'm telling WWE. I'd be like, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Meanwhile, I have fucking proof that they gave me permission. I asked WWE back in the day. This was what, 2003? I think it was around 03. I asked WWE, I said, I'd like to have an online, music station playing wrestling themes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is it okay if I do it? And they first responded back and they asked me, how much money am I making on it? And I said, nothing. I'm going to do it just as a form of entertainment for people. And they said to me, as long as I didn't use more than, I don't remember the kbps, the quality of this. They said like 14. I have the email somewhere, but they told me as long as the audio quality was no better than whatever, like AM radio quality, And as long as I wasn't selling it, they gave me permission. And I remember starting to play it. I had fucking ECW songs that, were not supposed to be released. I stole Steve Corino's song, the old school style. Remember that song? Remember Sinister Minister? It was Mikey Whipwreck and Tajiri's music. It would open up with Sinister Minister going, I stole that song. I played it. I remember getting an email, I think from Steve Corino back in the day. He's like, how did you get that fucking song? I was like, I don't remember. You need to stop playing that song. I was like, okay. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, you play it. WrestleVision was awesome, man. I fucking loved putting that thing. And you know what's cool about it? If you go back on Wayback Machine, you'll see the player still. And it still moves around. And if you watch it for like 5 minutes, you'll see the songs change. And you'll see like, oh, Chris Jericho's WCW theme. And next one, Taz's WWF theme. And I got away with it. But I didn't make any money off of it. That is true. All right. Dogs actually father figure, my dad. My dad's still my father figure. Scorpio, shout out to you, my friend. He thinks Mariah May will turn out to be the best AEW to WWE acquisition. She's only 26 and fits like a glove. I still lean to Jade Cargill a little bit more. It's nothing against Mariah May, but there's a lot of wrestlers that could, I'm not saying intertwine Mariah May, but for me, Mariah May doesn't stand out as much as Jade Cargill. I think Mariah May is much further as far as her ability and storytelling. But if they both have very successful WWE careers, I kind of feel Jade Cargill might be bigger on the food chain. And Dog saying he's talking about the song, Would I Dance to It? Father Figure? Is that a song? Never heard of it. Kevin Milwaukee says, wasn't Blondie's rap in Rapture the worst rapping I've heard? No, it was actually pretty cool at the time. Because you got to remember the time frame. This was like, what, 81? You really didn't have rap music back then. You had some. But, Blondie's song Rapture was great because it was a pop song. And then she would just do a rap at the end, and the lyrics were pretty stupid. But at the time, it was fun. It was not like I said, Grandmaster Flash, the message fucking hit. Like, what did they say? It hits you hard, hits hard. That shit was powerful. Blondie's song was kind of like out there, but it had a good vibe to it. It had a good vibe to it. There was another song, believe it or not, you want to hear something awful as far as rap music goes? This is true. The first ever rap song that I ever bought in a music store was called Rappo Clappo. I think it came out in 1976. It's one of the worst too. It's one of the first, if not first ever rap song that came out. Some people have debated that it is one of the first ever. But when you hear it, you'll understand right away how bad it is. It's on YouTube, absolutely. But it's one of those, clap your hands, everybody. Everybody, clap your hands. And this is 1976. If you want to hear something awful, go check that out. It's called Rappo Clappo. Don't ask me why I bought it. That's how new rap music was at the time. Anything with the word rap on it, I bought. That was awful. Bobby is asking, could he see WWE doing a Forbidden Door event? No, I don't think so. First of all, they're not going to do anything that's going to make people think of AEW. doing a WWE versus TNA thing is possible. And technically, they just did a Forbidden Door event. They did Worlds Collide. Listen, I'm not saying this to be perverted, but, AEW doing matches with New Japan, to me, that's not Forbidden Door. Especially when it happened originally during COVID. That's, to me, Forbidden Door is trying to invade my wife's ass. That's Forbidden Door. Like opening the wrong, going into somebody's bedroom, when I was a 20-something-year-old, when they're babysitting, going in someone's bedroom and taking their jewelry, that's a Forbidden Door. AEW doing matches with New Japan was not Forbidden Door. It's a great, catchy name, but to me, I don't look at it as forbidden. Why is it forbidden? Like if WWE and AEW did something, yeah. If WCW and WWE did something, yeah. They were part of a charity event once or twice, and they did the Terry Funk, his retirement when Terry wrestled Bret Hart. But, that's not Forbidden Door. So I don't see. And Charlie Sheen, props to Donald Trump, man. Listen, I keep politics off the shows, but, look, I don't want to see war with anybody out there, but Iran, is the state sponsor of terrorism. They fund terrorist organizations all across the globe. And I don't want to see anybody who lives in Iran killed, who just want to live their life. But the problem is that a lot of people in my country that try to humanize Iran never lived there, never dealt with what goes on there. Just like people who downplay Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has gotten better. But you look at a lot of atrocities that happen in Saudi Arabia simply because you're gay, or simply because you're this or that. If you don't live there, you don't know what it feels like. So when you try to humanize, you look at what's going on with ICE. People have been begging me to comment about Brody King's shirt. Honestly, if that's his opinion, I totally respect it. But for me, I've said this countless times, ICE should be focusing only on violent criminals. Our government cannot come out and say, if you didn't commit a serious crime, we're not focused on you right now. You can't do it. Because if you committed a crime by just coming into this country illegally, even though we look the other way, you can't start biasing people because, this crime is worse than this one. You committed a crime and you're here illegally, and by law, you're supposed to be taken out of this country, deported. You can't come out there. Lawyers are begging our country to say, look, if your only crime is coming here illegally, we're not going to go after you. There'll be lawyers all over the place. Why has this person got more rights than this person? The only way to resolve part of this is tell people who are in this country illegally, if you have not committed any serious crimes in this country or abroad, you haven't committed any crimes, you come in by January 1st, apply, we'll give you a temporary visa, 2 years, an ID number, and 2 years from now, it'll be reviewed. And as long as you don't get in any trouble, we'll renew it, guaranteed renewable. And after 20 years, stay out of trouble, you apply for citizenship. That's the only way to get around it. But when you see Brody King wearing a shirt like that, it's nice and everything. But, the people who've committed violent crimes, from murder and sexual abuse on children, this and that, what are you supposed to do about them? Who's going to deport them? Police aren't going to do it. So, when you start breaking it down, it's a nice thought what he said, but there's a lot of parts of ICE that are very, very crucial. Trust me, you don't want somebody who, put it this way, if I am separated from my family for committing a violent crime, then why should somebody who came in this country illegally be, looked at differently because, oh, their wife and kids are here too? You're separating people. What about me? If I go rob a bank right now, if I go assault somebody, what are you going to do? They're just going to separate me from my family. So it's a bad situation. I just wish we weren't in this situation from the beginning, but there's no perfect answer. So if that's what Brody King wants to do, I don't have any issue with it. I mean, I disagree with him because it's a very broad statement he's trying to make. But, I do see some of this stuff going on right now, and I disagree with ICE in some ways. Not all, but some. All right. We're going a little bit longer than I thought. We'll stay another 10 minutes. Tristan wants to know my thoughts on David Arquette winning the WCW championship. Was it the worst moment in wrestling history? No, it wasn't the worst moment in wrestling history. There's been a lot of awful moments in wrestling history. At the time, WCW's World Championship, there was one time there was like 7 world title changes in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They had a movie coming out. David Arquette won by a fluke. Donated his money to, I think, Brian Pillman's family. Didn't make a penny off of it. It was to promote the movie. And he lost it almost immediately. I always say this whenever this is brought up. Go back and look at wrestling magazines that covered it. Go back and look at newspapers that covered it. Go back and look at wrestling websites that covered it. Go back to Wayback Machine. You do not see this massive outcry of David Arquette winning the belt. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people were like, it's not even a wrestler. But people understood it was to promote a movie. I remember the Daily News covering it. And although not really, happy about it, people understood it. It took a life of its own because of Vince Russo at the time. It took a life of its own because WCW was totally fucked up. From Hogan to Jarrett to Nash. And there was so many things. I'm not saying the individuals. I'm just saying there was so many people and decisions that were being made that fucked up WCW that you had to pin it on one person, and David Arquette was the poster child. But like I said, go look back in real time. That's why even with Goldberg, what did I say last Monday night? I don't want to see the match. I think the way they did it is pretty ridiculous. Somebody could just walk in there and get a title shot, but listen to the crowd reaction. All those people paid money, and the majority of everybody live fucking liked it. So how am I going to sit here and say, it's fucking awful? Everybody agrees. This is ridiculous. It's terrible. Goldberg sucks. He's way past his prime. Why is he getting a title? Listen to the crowd reaction. I mean, how do you go against that? So I don't like it, but I understand why it's being done. It's just like Hulk Hogan. I brought this up the other day. Hulk Hogan has not been back on WWE television since the first week in January. You think it's because of scheduling conflicts? Hogan could tell you, oh, no, that was because it was California brother, Hollywood Hogan brother. Well, what's the excuse that WWE hasn't brought you in for 26 weeks after that, or 24 weeks after that? What's the excuse? So my point is, you feel the vibe of the fans, and that tells you if they should go with something or not. WCW in 2000 was kind of hard to cover. I mean, I did my hotline at that time, and it was not a fun time to cover it. It was very, very confusing at times, and it was frustrating at times. But when March 26, 2001 came, we thought that it would be reborn in WWF with WWF's money, and you would have a lot of people still involved, but you would have the idea that WWF versus WCW could happen. You look at Invasion. I appreciate all the what culture garbage that's out there, but when people say, oh, Invasion's one of the worst, the storylines and angles, it did almost 900,000 pay-per-view buys. There was no bait and switch. Everybody knew who was advertised for Invasion. How did it do 900,000 pay-per-view buys? So when people are like, oh, Invasion was one of the worst storylines in history. Oh, really? Your mother didn't even fuck your father yet. You weren't even a sperm when that came around. So what are you basing that on? Some other fucking nerd that wasn't alive at the time that thinks because he heard other people talk about it? It's bullshit. It's a great way to get a video and to spark debate. But I remember, I lived through it, and I know how that went down. People were not shitting on it. People were disappointed that some big names were not involved, but we understood that they were getting paid big money. AOL Time Warner. I remember Bam Bam Bigelow, God rest his soul. Bam Bam Bigelow was getting paid $300,000 to just sit home. Unfortunately, the money was going to his ex-wife, and she was putting that money aside. One day he came home, and the house was empty. She fucking skipped town with all of his money. That's a true story. So we understood why wrestlers, big names, weren't on it, because they were sitting at home collecting a fucking paycheck from AOL Time Warner. And WWF was not willing to buy out those contracts. Congratulations to Oklahoma City. They did win. They did win the championship. Went to 7 games. Oh, Invasion doesn't spark a lot of memories either. I remember when the WCW guys got their asses kicked on TV. I remember Bradshaw and Farouk, led by a bunch of people. That's why at that time, it's funny, somebody brought up Meng earlier. I think Havili brought up Meng earlier. When they beat down like Jindrak and others at that time, I don't think they beat down Meng. If you go back, I mean, I haven't looked at that footage probably in 20 years, but I do remember, going out of my way saying, at least Haku didn't get his ass kicked. I don't think he was part of it. I could be remembering wrong, but I don't think so. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm rarely ever wrong. All right. We got 6 minutes left, and we are definitely jetting. So I hope you could join me tomorrow night, right after Raw. DTKCshow.com is the website. DTKCDiscord.com is where you could catch me live. It's free. Join me in our Discord channel, and we'll talk about Raw. I think Cody Rhodes will beat Jey Uso. It's kind of interesting that Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton is happening, but on friendly terms. This is Saudi Arabia. So for Saudi Arabia, I think Randy Orton is a much bigger iconic name, and I don't think you have Randy Orton go this far for nothing. So it's going to be Randy Orton. Put it this way, Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes is the bigger match than Randy Orton versus Jey Uso in Saudi Arabia. And I think as of right now, Cody Rhodes does go to SummerSlam and takes on John Cena in a rematch. And then will we get the remake? Instead of Travis Scott potayoing Cody Rhodes, there's R-Truth to it. Or does R-Truth help Cody win? I don't know if R-Truth shows up in Saudi Arabia. Does R-Truth help John Cena? That was a bad take I did 2 weeks ago, but hey, you just never know. You just never know. Roderick is asking, what do I say, see Jey Uso in the near future? Well, Roman Reigns is coming back for SummerSlam. So, I don't know. Hikuleu, they put him on main event, which I don't get that at all. I mean, put him in dark match. Do they do dark matches anymore? Like, why even put him on a video screen? If you're not, unless they're not going to align him with the bloodline anytime soon. I don't know. Even if they tease it, I was a little confused with that, but I think Roman Reigns will be back soon. I don't know. I don't think Saudi Arabia will be a possibility. Never know, but I think Jey Uso, there could be. Jimmy Uso seems kind of like, like with no purpose right now. Do you reunite the Usos for a little while? Might be something to consider. Thank you, Maggie, for the kind words. I appreciate that. So I don't know. I don't know with Jey Uso. I know some people feel if you reunite the Usos, people say, oh, it's a step down. Can only imagine what Rikishi would say, even though he's full of shit. He's full of shit. He knows exactly how WWE business is done. He knows exactly how they handle Jey Uso. He's doing it because he podcasts and he loves his son and he's out there to protect his son. But, he ain't doing his son a lot of favors with some of the stuff he says. And who knows with Sami Zayn? If Sami Zayn does turn heel, maybe Sami Zayn has a feud with Jey Uso. Maybe that is down the line. I know people would have rather it been for a championship. But what happens with Sami Zayn right now? So Sami Zayn, it doesn't look like he's going for a championship at SummerSlam either. But then you got to ask yourself this. What about Gunther? Who does Gunther face after Saturday night's main event? Could we see like a three-way or a fatal four-way at SummerSlam involving Gunther, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and someone else? I don't know. I'll tell you, if there's any progression tomorrow, we'll talk about it tomorrow night. A lot of love for Oklahoma City right now. All right. Fire Triple H immediately. Hey, this is much bigger than Triple H. This is about TKO. And this is, Nick Khan. I did end up watching Nick Khan with Stephanie McMahon. And, Nick Khan, I always liked him. I like him even more now. I absolutely disagree. I think he has absolutely vanity searched his name. Just out of curiosity to see what people think about him. I think he would get shits and giggles to see how much Tony Khan hates him. The fact that he went out of his way to say that to Stephanie tells me that he absolutely has vanity searched his name. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but he is very, very smart in what he says. The people who are, understand this, the people who are extremely loud on social media and podcasting about negativity in wrestling is a very small percentage of people. It's a very small percentage of people. Just look at the Goldberg thing, for example. Look at what your lying eyes are showing you. Listen to what your lying ears are telling you. Goldberg, even though some of us don't want to see the match, sees that reaction from majority of the fans out there, and they're fine with it. So when you see the majority of fans feeling that way, there's a phrase, you can't always get what you want. So at least we know a month from now, we don't have to worry about Goldberg wrestling anymore. 1 month from now, that's it. He's done. Unless he does a Ric Flair. He wrestles his last match in the WWE, and then a year or two from now, I think I still have one match left in me. And either Conrad fucking books him on an indie show, or maybe AEW, Tony Khan convinces him to come in. Goldberg, you still have a lot left. We'll give you the Sting push. We'll give you a Sting push. You could beat up Evil Uno. That's not out of the ordinary. Remember, this is not Vince McMahon's company anymore. Does Goldberg have emotional ties with Nick Khan? No. Does Goldberg have emotional ties with Ari Emanuel? No. So why wouldn't Goldberg possibly consider down the line? If he feels really good, I think I got one more in me. Yeah, I could see Goldberg pulling a Ric Flair somewhere else. Never say never. Scorpio 1117 says he won't be surprised if women's wrestling becomes the main attraction of the sport in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know. It's a male-dominated sport. Always has been. It always will be. You know, when you hear Natalia and others saying, oh, this should be an all-women's TV show. Yeah, pay-per-view, yes. A special indie event once in a while, yes. A weekly TV show? Hell fucking no. You know why? Same reason I said 10 years ago. Because if the rating comes in awful, that just puts a knife in the heart for women's wrestling that doesn't need to be. It is too risky to alienate a demographic for one gender. A lot of women out there who love women's wrestling also have their favorites in the men. There's a lot of men out there, including me, who love men's wrestling, but also do enjoy women's wrestling. There's a shitload of women in NXT I love watching. There's a lot of women on the main roster I love watching. Do I want to see a men's only pay-per-view? No. Do I want to see a women's only pay-per-view? Not really. The only reason why I think Evolution is good because some people will get an opportunity that they don't normally get because of the fact that NXT events, WWE events always split gender. Got men and women. So there's always some people lost in the shuffle. So this is an opportunity that, okay, you get some women that'll get a little bit of an opportunity that wouldn't normally get. But as far as a weekly TV series, I don't want to see that happen because if the ratings are awful, that just sets a message that women's wrestling is not as popular. And that's unfair because we don't have an all men's wrestling show right now. So I think that's putting too much of a burden on women. I don't think that would be fair for women. Just my honest opinion. You can't compare WNBA to this because you don't have men facing women in basketball, you know, unless, you know, other than some stories with transgender. You don't have, you know, a women's team or men and women facing men and women. So you can't compare sports that have only one, you know, gender as far as the league. You have to look at mixed, and there really is not much. So, all right, I'm out of here. We've gone an extra hour, which perfectly fine with. Definitely want to give a special shout out again to our great channel members here on YouTube. Thank you very much for supporting what we do. Help pay the bills, grow a little bit. For everybody who's on our Patreon, same to you. Much love as always. For everyone out there that just listens to the shows, recommends it to a friend, downloads the episodes, that helps just as much. You know, keeping Kev's legacy alive. You know, right now we have the whole vault on Patreon. In 2026, once the history shows are done, we will start working on putting the vault online for everyone. It's not as easy as it sounds because there's a very big expense involved with it, but, you know, little at a time. You know, I don't plan on exiting anytime soon. I mean, again, tomorrow's never guaranteed. So hopefully that day doesn't come anytime soon for me. But still, you know, there's a couple of issues that I got to take care of, obviously. And, you know, this is still fun. It's still a lot of fun. It's, again, if you would have said to me in 1997 that I'd still be doing this in some capacity in 2025, 28 years later, I would have said to you, man, my life must have gotten really fucking boring. But luckily it hasn't. So I still have fun doing this. And I take pride in quality. You know, I may not be the most good looking, may not be the funniest person out there. I may not be the most knowledgeable out there. I may not be the most articulate person out there. But one thing I honestly think I have that pretty much no one else has is authenticity and honesty. Mean what you say what you mean, and not try to sugarcoat something simply because, give you more views, or, try to clickbait someone into or focus on an emotion because it's going to trigger a reaction. I don't do that. It was never my style, never will be my style. But, I try to keep the DTKC legacy alive, and that'll never waver. So, we all miss Kev. I absolutely miss him. I am so grateful that we have 20 years of content that we saved, so we can always revisit it. But again, it hurts to even see that pipe bomb on Friday night and not be able to, on Monday night, Kev, what'd you think of the pipe bomb? And talk about it. Kev, when Jey Uso lost that belt to Gunther, trust me, I heard Kev, see, I told you, only a couple of months, told you. I could hear it, but it's a part of life, man. It's a part of life. And it's going to happen to all of us. We just don't know when. So the only thing we could do is, since we still have some time together, just have a good time, man. That's honestly the only thing. Just have a good time. Talk wrestling, good, bad, have fun, no malice intended. And we carry on. That's all we can do is carry on. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night. DTKCDiscord.com. And I'm out of here. Be well. Nothing happened. That's what happens. That's what happens. I'm not the most organized person here. I don't know where my outro is. It freaking disappeared. No, it didn't disappear. I accidentally deleted it by mistake. I kid you not. I almost deleted my outro just now. Good night, everybody.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.